Madison, police reporting a crash 65 northbound at Old Hickory Boulevard. In the Belmont area, police reporting a crash 65 northbound right before Wedgwood Avenue. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hello, friends. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. That's the radio station. My name is Matt Murphy, and conveniently, this is the Matt Murphy Radio Show. Happy to have you with us this afternoon. It is Thursday, May 22. I imagine you know that by now. You're smart people. It's 2025. That goes without saying. Did you know that it's our episode 815 of our gatherings together? Did you know that it's day number 123 of Donald Trump's second term in his presidency that lasts 1,460.5 days? We're on a variety of platforms, and we'd love to serve you on all of those platforms. Wherever you go, you can take us where you go on Spotify, iHeart, TuneIn, or any other application that downloads and streams music, news, information. You can find us there. Just hit us up at Supertalk 99.7 WTN.com. You can also find us on, the radio station, obviously, 99.7 FM, 100,000 watts of blowtorch power. And then, of course, there's Talk TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch for those masochists in the listening audience that want to avail yourself of this ugly mug that is slowly but surely growing hair back on my chin. You can do that by hitting us up. Once again, that is YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. By the way, when you do that, do me a favor and I don't harp on it like Hand and some others. I mean, Chris Handy's all over you about giving the thumbs up and liking and subscribing, and you're a lesser of a person if you don't do it. We wouldn't chide you in such fashion. However, I would admonish you this, that we have a price point on exactly what it will cost you in order to like and subscribe or give us the thumbs up. And that cost point is what, Ken Weaver?
Absolutely nothing, boys. Yeah.
That's right. Ken Weaver's already saving you money there in the newsroom. Hello, Ken.
How about you?
How's it going?
It's going good.
Yeah, a lot of news, man.
Man, it has been like a fire hose today.
Yeah,
it's just one right after another.
A lot going on. And I mean, so much so that I don't know where to start, but we'll try to figure it out together after we introduce you to Chris Weber, who controls this experience and makes sure that everything that comes out of our speakers sounds as good as humanly possible. You looked as surprised when I said you control the experience.
Yeah. I mean, I get to push all these buttons?
You push the, as Wilson used to say, the blinky buttons. Ooh. And it is up to Chris Weber to make sure that you get this news, entertainment, and information. That's it.
What's this one do? Ooh, I like that
one. You still got that one from late in the show yesterday of Ken Weaver pronouncing that fancy fellow's name.
Yeah, I didn't hold on to that one.
Yeah, that one's gone. I've got some serious commentary to make on that subject of South Africa and why it occurred to me last night. Why are liberal reporters from NBC and other news organizations so damned determined to avoid talking about what's going on in South Africa? It's fascinating to me. And they get hung up on these things like, oh, well, that wasn't a grave site. That wasn't a grave site. That's unsubstantiated. That wasn't a grave site. It's like these are crosses. That is it is a cross memorial designating the number of white farmers that have been killed at the hands of South Afrikaners due to their race and due to the fact that they own land in South Africa. They are being killed, slaughtered. Racially based mass murder is going on in South Africa. There's no question about it. And you want to get caught up as to whether or not it's a genocide? How many white people have to get killed in South Africa before you're willing to call it a genocide? Exactly, NBC. But there they were today in the White House, in the press briefing room, demanding to know why the President of the United States was misleading the American public when it is, in fact, they, to use the proper pronouns. That are misleading the public. We'll go there at some point over the course of the day. I don't know that it's the first thing that we'll talk about, but we will discuss it. The big, beautiful bill was passed in the House of Representatives today for what it is worth. I could spend the next hour and a half. I could spend the entire show breaking down exactly what was in it. I don't believe that that is a good use of our time, considering that it will be substantially changed in the Senate. Substantially changed in the Senate, and then you have to have another vote in the House of Representatives to, wait for it now, reconcile the two bills, which is why we are calling what is happening reconciliation. It avoids the need for a 60-vote margin in the United States Senate, so you just have to have a simple majority of Republicans supporting this thing. You could actually have a couple of defections. You could feasibly have the same number of defections that you were allowed in the House of Representatives in the Senate, because you need but a simple majority, and obviously J.D. Vance would break the tie over there. So I would certainly not be against talking about the big, big, beautiful bill. It passed. I told you it would. Well, it's passed the first body and the first chamber. Now it has to go to the Senate. It will be changed substantially there. One would believe that the tax cuts will remain in place. Whether or not we get actual cuts to government spending remains to be seen. It is my hope. I am more hopeful today than I was at the end of the show yesterday. I was just down on the entire process yesterday because, sadly, I don't believe that we will dig into this as substantially as we should. Yesterday, we did have an interesting hour-long or hours-long discussion about the Golden Dome. I find it funny how many good old Uncle Phil used to refer to them as Van Gogh listeners, or these folks as Van Gogh. And I don't know that this is Van Gogh listening necessarily, but I do find it interesting that for someone such as myself, who has supported Donald Trump since the escalator, on the day of the escalator ride in 2015, I said two things. I said, this guy's going to change the face of this race and the political dynamic right now, and he will burn out like magnesium. I was right on the first point and absolutely wrong on the second point, and I will take credit for the first, and I will take the slings and arrows of the second point. That said, I've supported Trump since then. To support a presidential candidate, or in this case, to support a president of the United States, does not necessarily mean that you support that individual in every single thing that they do. I believe the greatest threat to the United States of America is our national debt and our inability to spend within our means. If we continue to overspend, we have seen the nations that have done this in the past, and those nations inevitably turn socialist. In the modern dynamic, nations that overspend and overburden their citizens with taxation, which is the next consequence of the overspending, once we're unable to borrow anymore, once the interest on the debt becomes so burdensome to the American people, we have to get the money from somewhere, and eventually those liberal Democrats will convince you that the free market system is not working. They will convince enough Americans. It's razor tight right now. What do you think will happen when we have to raise taxes? I don't want to devolve back into it. The point that I'm making is this, that I do not see the real and pressing danger regarding our airspace that would necessitate the expenditure of somewhere in the neighborhood of $250 billion in additional money to build this Golden Dome. I do not believe that it is necessary. There are many that do, and reasonable people can disagree. If it is as necessary as it has been offered to us that it is, then I would suggest that the United States Department of Defense find the money in their $1 trillion budget, as opposed to asking for additional money. You're telling me that they're not wasting money in the Department of Defense? If you tell me that, I call you a fool, because they are most certainly wasting money in the Department of Defense. I mean, hell, we can't even get an Air Force One plane out on time. All right, so there's that going on today as well. Some stories local and a little bit closer to home that I want to get into as well. The death penalty is on our minds today as an individual was put to death in the state of Tennessee for the first time in, I guess, just over 5 years. The state of Tennessee put Oscar Franklin Smith to death for crimes committed in 1989, on October 1st of 1989, when Oscar Franklin Smith killed his estranged wife and her 2 sons, Chad and Jason. The wife was named Judy Roberts Smith. I want to talk a little bit about this with regard to the reaction to the death penalty. And in particular, I want to talk to you about, there was an op-ed piece that was presented in the Tennessean about how Oscar Franklin Smith was a human being too, and that he deserves mercy too. I'm going to go ahead and say to hell with that. I just, we'll discuss. And Oscar Smith had a few things to say to Governor Bill Lee in his final moments on planet Earth. We will discuss that as well. If you've not heard, last night there was violence in Washington, D.C., as an individual shot and killed 2 Israeli embassy staffers who were departing the Capitol Jewish Museum last evening. The 2 staffers, and I don't want to mangle these names. I will do my best. Yaron Lashinsky and Sarah Milgram were departing an evening event at the museum last night when they were gunned down and killed. The 2 were planning to get engaged, according to the Embassy of Israel. According to authorities and witnesses on the scene, a pro-Palestinian man identified as a 30-year-old by the name of Elias Rodriguez of Chicago was arrested in connection with the case and was heard to say, "Free Palestine" at the time. So I suppose that you will not hear a tremendous amount about this racially or ethnically motivated attack, anti-Semitic attack on these 2 individuals that were slain outside of a museum in Washington, D.C. You see, when it is a liberal on our television promoting violence, when it is a group of liberal people excusing violence on the streets of the United States of America in the name of anything, then the mainstream media is going to give those organizations, those individuals, and that movement a pass. I am consistent as the day is long that your words mean things, and we ought to make sure that I am not to be held responsible for the actions of other people simply because these other people might agree with the sentiments that I express on the radio and then in their own way, demented or otherwise, take those sentiments and go commit violence against other people. Nor would I suggest that there is any direct linkage between this individual who is pro-Palestinian and all of these liberal nutjob talking heads who appear nightly on my television telling me that there is a justification for all of these college campus protests and there is a justification for all of this nonsense about free Palestine and this and that and the other thing, when all of us know, anyone with a grain of sense understands why the conflict that is going on in that region of the world is happening. Because the Palestinians / the Hamas group attacked and slaughtered the Jewish people. And this is a direct response to that slaughter that occurred. If Hamas wants to stop the killing, if Hamas wants to stop the war, if you want to, in effect, quote, free Palestine, you may do so. And oh, by the way, for those of you that buy into the free Palestine narrative, Palestine was free. In 2006, Israel left. Hamas was elected as the leadership group. West Bank did a little something different than the Gaza Strip. West Bank went with the Palestinian Authority, the old PLO. Gaza Strip went with Hamas, and they got Hamas. And sadly, they got what came with it. Violence, death, destruction, kill the Jews, all of it. This is a byproduct of it. Donald Trump properly noting that hatred and radicalism have no place in the United States of America. That was his response to the attack. Representative Ilhan Omar, Democrat from Minnesota, was asked about the attack that happened last night. She had no comment, saying only, "I'm going to go for now." Interesting. You have no comment on the brutal slaughter of 2 innocent people who were gunned down in cold blood in Washington, D.C. in the name of Palestine? You have no comment on that? Of course you don't. Of course you don't. Then there's the city of Leverne on the issue of immigration. They had a meeting last night. We'll talk about that. We'll offer some thoughts on that. I am happy to note, and I'm not here to play a game of gotcha or, hey, we were first on this subject, but I would note that we had these videos a week and a half ago, I guess it was, or 2 weeks ago. So a lot of people are picking up on the Afton Ben video that we played for you some 10 days ago or so, where Afton Ben is actively attempting to thwart immigration and customs enforcement efforts in the city of Nashville with a buddy of hers declaring that they're trying to stymie these individuals for the purpose of making it more difficult for ICE to do their jobs. I am happy that many people are picking up on the Afton Ben videos. We will discuss the ramifications of that, and we'll talk a little about immigration in the state of Tennessee and beyond on the show today as well. Plus, some thoughts on the Glenn Cassida-Cade Cochran verdict. I was not around during that period of time in the state of Tennessee, so I've not said a lot about that, but I do want to kind of revisit that verdict as well. We've got David Kustoff coming on the show a little bit later on today in the 5 o'clock hour. That's great news on this Thursday edition. Your telephone calls, as always, 615-737-9986. But we're going to start here. Mayor Freddie O'Connell was very quick to tell us that the presence of the Tennessee Highway Patrol and the presence of Immigration and Customs Enforcement in no way made the streets of Nashville safer. Mayor Freddie O'Connell cannot manage to lead from his position in the mayor's office to get enough people on the city council to agree to approve contracts for license plate readers. We have had, over the last several days, 2 separate examples of crimes committed in this community that could have and would have been solved with license plate readers. We have mothers calling out the mayor directly. And I wonder why are television stations covering this? You had hit and runs in Nashville. One, an individual got hit on the street, and there's video of it, and it is brutal. And Mama wants to know where the license plate readers. Number 2, there was a guy in Antioch, I think this was yesterday, on a scooter or on one of these electric bicycles, got popped by a red vehicle, a vehicle that could be easily found, but for Freddie O'Connell, apparently, because he doesn't care about license plate readers. So I'm not about to be lectured by the mayor of this city about health and safety when he refuses to do one of the central things that could improve the ability to find lawbreakers and bring them to justice should they put the health and safety of Nashville citizens in danger. So we'll deal with that on the show today as well. Plus your telephone calls as always. It's 23 after the hour. Just getting underway. It's the Murphy Show on Super Talk. All right, guys, Father's Day is coming up, and let's be honest, Dad doesn't need another coffee mug, and he sure as heck doesn't want another tie. What he does want is some fresh gear from Volunteer Outfitters in Hendersonville. They've got everything for the outdoorsman or the sportsman in your family, or the guy that just wants to look the part, from Southern Marsh, Drake, Huck, golf shirts perfect for the course or the cookout. This place is loaded with great gift ideas for Dad. Don't forget, every Tuesday is T-Shirt Tuesday. I sometimes extend those to T-Shirt Wednesday or T-Shirt Thursday, much to the chagrin of Tommy. But, you know, I'll do what I got to do. That means any purchase on Tuesdays, you get a free Volunteer Outfitters T-shirt. It's a win-win. Shop for Dad and score a T-shirt for yourself. They're open Tuesday through Friday, 10 until 6. So they're open today until 6 o'clock. Saturday from 10 until 4. Head over to 593 New Shackle Island Road in Hendersonville. And when you stop by, say hey to Tommy and the crew and tell them that Matt Murphy sent you. Give them a call if you have any questions. 615-431-0824. 0824. Volunteer Outfitters, where Tennessee gears up.
For many of us, generators are becoming a must-have household appliance. From unpredictable weather to surprise outages, it's better to be safe than sorry. Generator Supercenter of Nashville offers fast and easy installations with 24/7 service and monitoring to all brands of generators and expert repairs done right. Our mission is to make owning a backup generator simple and easy. Visit your local store today or check us out online. Generator Supercenter of Nashville. We serve all Middle Tennessee.
Well, the search for a missing 12-year-old boy has come to a heartbreaking end. A Tennessee community mourning the loss of a beloved store clerk murdered during a robbery. Tennessee carries out its first execution of a condemned killer in 5 years. California officials say it's a miracle no one on the ground was killed today after a business jet crashed into a neighborhood. These stories and more at 3:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
After narrowly avoiding the death penalty in 2022, thank you, Ken Weaver, by the way.
Yes, sir.
Oscar Franklin Smith was executed by the state of Tennessee today. The first execution in the state since 2020. Smith was 75 years of age. He lived a hell of a lot longer than the three people he killed. He was sentenced to die for a triple murder in Nashville in 1989. I'm going to speak way more about that after the news. Spoke his last words from his gurney inside River Bend Maximum Security Institution in Nashville at 10:32. He spoke for about 3 minutes, and his address was primarily directed toward Governor Bill Lee. He said, somebody needs to tell the governor the justice system doesn't work. He's the last word and the last person to give justice where justice is needed. Too many innocent people are getting killed, he said. He also then went on to suggest the governor quit and get a backbone. He was administered the lethal injection of phenobarbital, a barbiturate, minutes later and declared dead at 10:47 this morning. It was the fourth time that officials had slated an execution date for Smith. A couple of times they were postponed during the pandemic. Governor Bill Lee called off the third because of a protocol issue involving lethal injection. I find it, gosh, the first word that comes to mind is disgusting, but that might be a little bit too harsh. I find it frustrating that during these times that we have conversations about execution by the state and whether or not it ought to be permitted, we focus on the individual executed as opposed to the actions of the individual who is now dead. I'm going to focus on those actions here in just a moment. I understand. I disagree, but I understand why people have problems with the death penalty. And if you, generally speaking, disagree with the death penalty, you don't want to give the state that ultimate authority, I get you. I disagree with you, but I get you. But some of the people defending scumbags like Smith, beyond the pale. We'll talk about it next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Right now, the search is over for a missing 12-year-old boy whose body was recovered today at Billy Dunlop Park in Clarksville. Crews have been searching for him since Sunday. Investigators believe he drowned in the Red River. The boy's father says his son had gone under while swimming and never came back up. His body was found less than a mile downstream from where he went under. Billy Dunlop Park and Robert Clark Park closed until further notice. Right now in Marshall County, many in the community of Lewisburg mourning the loss of Paresh Patel, a store clerk murdered during an armed robbery this week. Surveillance video shows a man identified police as David Hamilton ordering the clerk to hand over money and then shooting the clerk several times, even though he handed over the money.
We're going to miss him, and we need prayers for his wife and his daughter. And I just pray that God gives us the strength to make it through this, even though when we go back in this store, we're not going to see him.
Hamilton was arrested yesterday, charged with criminal homicide. More charges possible. A vigil, meanwhile, scheduled for tonight at the gas station where Patel was killed there in Lewisburg. Tennessee's carrying out its first execution of a condemned killer in 5 years. Channel 4's Holly Thompson says 73-year-old Oscar Smith died by lethal injection this morning for the 1989 murders of his estranged wife and her 2 teenage sons from a previous marriage. The Tennessean says 35-year-old Judith Robert Smith and her sons, 13-year-old Jason Burnett and 16-year-old Chad Burnett, were murdered inside their Nashville home in 1989, with one prosecutor saying the boys died as heroes trying to save their mom. And 2 people believed dead after a small jet crashed into a San Diego neighborhood this morning, causing homes and cars to catch fire.
Firefighters are calling it a miracle. Everybody on the ground appears to have gotten out with relatively minor injuries. The deaths were to those on board the plane. The plane crashing before 4 a.m. with people asleep in the homes, and everybody got out of the homes alive. San Diego Fire Assistant Chief Dan Eddy.
We had multiple cars on fire. We had the house on fire behind us as it was going down the street.
Just before the crash, the pilot had asked air traffic control for a weather update and was told visibility was low. The pilot responded he would attempt a landing. Alex Stone, EBC News.
That's the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Over by Belmont, police reporting an injury crash 65 northbound before Wedgwood. At Rivergate, police say there's a crash 65 northbound at Vietnam Veterans Boulevard. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
You know, if you've got big Memorial Day plans, I hope some of them are indoors because you just heard the man talking about the rain. But secondarily, I hope that you do all of your Memorial Day festivities bug-free. And if you have U.S. Pest in your life, you don't have to worry about it because U.S. Pest is going to make sure of that. U.S. Pest guarantees it with their 100% money-back guarantee on their full-service pest control, their termite protection, and their crawl space service. If you have any bugs that are bugging you, right, like, spiders, ticks, fire ants, roaches, silverfish, whatever they might be, or even rats or rodents, let's get U.S. Pest at your home. They'll come by. They'll give you a complete analysis. You can schedule a free pest and termite inspection right now. They don't upsell you on anything. They just tell you the situation as it exists. Plus, if you're currently unsatisfied with your pest control company, you need to get with U.S. Pest because satisfaction, once again, is guaranteed. I love dealing with J.K. and Erica Brister. I love these guys. They're not only a great company, they're great friends. They love the United States of America, and they hate bugs. USPest.com. That's USPest.com or call 590-1260, 590-1260. Super Talk 99.7 WTN 339. Matt Murphy, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hope everybody's doing well. Gorgeous day today, huh?
Yeah, we need to go outside.
Ooh, that would be fun.
That'd be nice. I keep saying that we need to do the show from the roof sometime.
Yes.
Yeah. Or
You
the parking lot.
Set up some tables.
Yeah.
Microphone. We got long enough cords we could run out there. Come on.
You know what? Y'all have inspired me. I'm doing the show from the lake tomorrow. That's it. That's it.
What about us?
Yeah, what about us, man?
Oh, what about y'all?
I'd go down there and suntan.
By the way, speaking of traitors in our midst, where does Ken Weaver get off not forgetting about the meeting that we were supposed to have with the boss today, Weber?
Yeah, I don't know about.
I don't know about all that either.
Yeah,
he must be aiming for a raise or something.
Must be.
Yeah, I went in there and I told Paul, I said, I'm here for you, man. I don't know where Chris and Matt are. I guess maybe they're not going to show.
Those ne'er-do-wells.
I told him last week we had a meeting today.
You lost your Cheez-Its as a result, kid. That's all I can tell you.
I saw that.
That's all I can tell you. So here's the dynamic, y'all. We have our once a month, whether we need it or not, meeting with New Suit.
Although we haven't had one in like 3 months.
We haven't had, well,
for various reasons.
For a variety of different situations that have popped up, which I think is a good little. Yeah, it's a kind of a defense.
I'll lean on that.
Yeah, we'll do, any port in a storm, right? Whatever we can do. You canceled it. And, what am I supposed to do? So, at about 1 o'clock this afternoon, I get a text from Ken Weaver.
Yes, sir.
And Chris Webber's on that text.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hold on. I just want to read the text verbatim.
Yeah, do it.
Let's see. Oh, here it is. Says, Ken Weaver, Sorry, don't make me laugh. This is fun. So we have these meetings. Y'all know how it is, right? You got to meet with the boss, right? You got to go over how are things going, everything good, need anything, what about this? Let's maybe do this better. Hey, Murphy, might want to go to the news on time, that kind of thing. Might want to cuss less. I get it. So we're supposed to have this meeting today at 1, and at 12:56.
What, 12:56?
12:56.
Yeah.
So early enough that he's catching us but late enough that there's no shot.
No chance.
Ken Weaver. I'm going to do my best Weaver impersonation. You all right? You boys going to make the meeting? Chris Webber responded with an expletive that I can't repeat on the radio. Bleep. It's a no from me. Totally spaced on it. Ken, I just told Paul he can always count on me.
Butt kisser.
I mean, total butt kisser. Oh. And, and like some minutes later, I chime in. I forgot, too. Got to put that on my calendar, which I do. And I did.
Did you?
So at the time, I had 2 baggies of Cheez-Its to be delivered to Chris Webber and Ken Weaver.
Son of a biscuit eater.
And I had to make an executive decision when I got to work. There you go. You can see them right on camera. They're delicious. They're firecracker Cheez-Its.
Yeah, look at that.
So good. So good. War Eagle. And
I can smell them through the bag.
and I had to make an executive decision because I was very apologetic for missing the meeting. I feel like I can say it's unlike me.
Yeah.
You could say that.
I could say that. I don't know if it's true or not.
You could.
But I needed to do something to suck up. And so I redirected a bag of the Cheez-Its, an unassigned bag of Cheez-Its, to New Suit, to Paul. And he seemed very appreciative of them. And then I had to make a decision as to who got the second bag. And it was obvious to me that the decision went to Chris Webber, who's always got my back.
Kind of a no-brainer, I think.
I mean, I felt like it was.
That's not very nice.
I should have split them, Ken. If I were a nicer human, I would have split them.
Ken, come on around here and get you a handful. I'll share with you.
I like them Cheez-Its Erica makes.
They're good.
That's good stuff.
They're good. Anyway, that's how our day went. Missing meetings and that sort of that. You got to hate it when you get the message from one of your cohorts. You boys going to make the meeting?
Yeah, I got in there. I said, Paul, I gave him a heads up.
I gave them plenty of time to be here, Paul. Apparently, they don't even care.
The good thing about it is that the heads up did come 4 minutes before the meeting. So at that point, there's no chance I'm going to make it. So
Zero
it's like,
chance.
The heck with it.
Oh,
skip it.
Ken, I guess if we look at it in the right way, thank you. Yeah. Thank you for not giving us the heads up like 15 minutes before.
Yeah.
Because then there would have been a dilemma.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Do I drive 95 miles an hour trying to get to the radio station?
Yeah.
Get there 10 minutes late, but I'm here nonetheless?
Yeah.
No. There was no shot at it.
That's right.
No.
Made it easier.
How was the meeting, by the way? Was it good?
Meeting went real good.
Yeah, well.
He spoke real glowingly of me.
Not so much you fellas.
Right. Yeah.
Well, you know.
Nah, I'm just joking. It was all good. It was all good.
Well, look, I've got to divert to this very, very sad story, and I'm going to do so. But listen, I understand why people disagree with the ability for the state to take the life of an individual. Some people lean on their faith in their determination process. Others just don't believe that the state, regardless of the crimes committed, should have the ultimate authority to take the life of a human being. For me, my analysis is based on justice. And I believe that there are some crimes that are so heinous, so against society, that there is no appropriate justice. It's not about revenge. It's not about retribution. It's not about a getting back. It's about appropriate justice. And recognizing that there are individuals in our lives, there is evil in our midst that is there is zero opportunity to rehabilitate some individuals. Just none. I do not believe that child sexual predators can be rehabilitated. I do not. One of the reasons that I am open to the idea of opening up the death penalty to the most heinous of sexual crimes against children would be for that reason, that I do not believe that there is an opportunity for any sort of rehab for these individuals. There's no coming back from murder, in my opinion, particularly premeditated murder. Far too often, when individuals get executed in high-profile cases, we focus on the individual that has been executed, and we do not focus on the actions that that person committed as determined by the state and as judged by a jury of their peers. I want to take you back to October 1st of 1989. I don't know if it's for this reason or not, but one of these young men that I'm going to tell you about, Chad Burnett, there was Jason and Chad Burnett. Jason was an 8th grader at Wright Junior High School. Chad Burnett was a high school sophomore at Glencliff High School. Chad Burnett, I don't know his birthday, but he would either be 50 or 51 years of age today. I'm 51. His life was taken in the most brutal and heinous fashion imaginable. I want you to imagine the morning of October 2nd when a young 8-year-old went to the home of Judy Robards Smith, who had babysat the boy every Monday in the past. And this young man went to their home and found a scene unimaginable to most of us. There was a woman, as authorities descended upon the scene, who was found on an unmade bed, clothed in blue jeans and a shirt. She had been shot in the left arm and the neck and had been stabbed multiple times. There was blood splattered on the paneled wall next to the bed. One of the wounds, which was caused by a gun which was fired from a range of less than 2 feet, had severed her spinal cord and produced instant paralysis and death. In the woman's bedroom, the mother's bedroom, Jason Burnett, the 8th grader, was found. He was gutted by a knife. I should note, and I should have noted at the beginning of this is graphic, but it needs to be. It needs to be graphic. In order to get beyond this nonsense that's being preached at us by do-gooders who want to suggest that we need to have mercy in our souls for individuals like Oscar Franklin Smith, I would suggest to you that we need to first to know exactly what Oscar Franklin Smith did and what level of mercy he had for his estranged wife and his 2 stepchildren. Jason Burnett was gutted, lying at the foot of the bed on which his mother lay. Despite the fact that they had been there for many, many hours at this point, there was a hairdryer lying next to him. The hairdryer was still running. It seems that Ms. Robert Smith was doing her hair at the time that she was attacked. Young Jason was stabbed in the chest and the stomach area. According to Tom Thurman, a former Davidson County Deputy District Attorney who visited the crime scene and later prosecuted Smith, his hands were found on his intestines as if to hold them in. You see, all of Jason Burnett's injuries occurred before his death. He bled to death on the floor of his bedroom. Chad Burnett, who was a Glen Cliff High School sophomore, was found lying in a pool of blood on his back in the kitchen beside an overturned table. He had been shot through his left eye, in the upper chest, and in the shoulder. He had also been stabbed at several times in the chest, in the back, and in the stomach with a sharp, needle-like weapon and with a knife. The phone in the kitchen had been ripped out of the wall. More on that in a moment. Large quantities of blood were on the floor. Photos had been thrown from the walls. The walls were blood-smeared and splattered. There was a leather working tool, an awl shaped like a pick, found in the room. According to Thurman, police say they never found the .22 caliber pistol used to shoot the victims, and they never found the knife used to stab them. The night before these 3 were found lying in their own blood, there was a 911 call, a frantic 911 call. At about 11:22 at night on October 1st, Jason Burnett screams into the phone, "Help me." As the dispatcher asked the question, "What's the problem?" she heard in the background a garbled voice of a 16-year-old, reportedly Chad Burnett, screaming, "Frank, no, God help me." The dispatcher attempted to get more information, and the boy on the phone gave the address of the Ludi Court home that he shared with his brother and their mother, Judith Roberts Smith. Shuffling and screaming can be heard in the background. The line went dead. It's at that point that it's believed that Oscar Franklin Smith tore the phone from the wall and killed one of the young boys. Metro Nashville Police Department dispatched to the home. I don't understand this part of the story. I don't, but perhaps there are gaps that we can't fill in or can't understand. But they were dispatched to the home, and they found nothing unusual outside of the home, and so they left. They left. Inside the home, nestled in the Woodbine community, there were 3 people dead. And a jury of his peers determined that Oscar Franklin Smith was responsible for these deaths. He was obviously known to them as he was the estranged husband of Robert Smith. He had been accused of assaulting her and her 2 children on multiple occasions and was in the midst of a child custody dispute with their 3-year-old twin boys, who were obviously not with their mother at the time. We do not as a society, and I know I have to get to a break. We do not as a society sentence people to death lightly. Nor should we. But I can think of no more appropriate punishment than death, if you understand the circumstances of this case. 55 after the hour, more in a moment on Super Talk. There's no better way to secure your valuables than to purchase a gun safe, a quality gun safe from Nashville Safe House. You know, we talk about a lot of serious matters on this show, like break-ins and whatnot. If you want to protect yourself from theft, if you want to protect you and your family from the fear that someone might break into your home, the best way to do that is with a weapon, and the best way to secure that weapon is with a safe from Nashville Safe House. Don't forget, gun safes are sales tax free at Nashville Safe House. They've been family owned and operated for well over 30 years now. Mark and his team do it the right way, friends. I absolutely love these guys, and I have been for 3 years now trying to be the salesman of the year at Nashville Safe House. Mark says I'm not eligible, but I'm going to keep trying. He keeps letting Joe Biden and Kamala Harris be salesperson of the year. Well, they do a pretty good job of selling safes. Here's the deal, folks. If you need a safe, quality safe of any shape or size, you get them from Nashville Safe House, and they let one of their professional delivery crews deliver your safe to your home. They don't let these third-party crackheads deliver it. They let the professionals get the job done that work for Nashville Safe House. Go to NashvilleSafeHouse.com or across the street, 4th Avenue South in Nashville. Nashville Safe House. Hey, folks. Pulled a little premature trigger there. Defend Systems is who I wanted to talk to you about. Defend Systems is Brink Fiddler's company, and he does a great job helping you protect your business, protect the employees of your business, or anywhere that people gather. If you're a decision maker at a school, at a church, or at a place of business, you need to get Brink Fiddler and Defend Systems in your life. They are a life safety and security consultation firm specializing in things like active shooter response, workplace violence, site surveys and threat assessment, security improvement consultation, emergency and intruder action action plans, all customized to your individual facility. Let's reach out today to Defend Systems. Friends, hope is not a plan. It's time to get trained with Defend Systems. Let them come to your company, your school, your place of business. 615-236-6484, 236-6484, or defendsystems.com.
Four o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Right now, the body of a missing 12-year-old Clarksville boy has been recovered. Crews found the body today about a half-mile downstream from where investigators believe he drowned on Sunday, where his father says he was swimming in the Red River but went under and didn't come back up. Billy Dunlop Park and Robert Clark Park are closed until further notice. Right now in Tennessee, Oscar Smith is the first convicted killer to die by lethal injection in over 5 years. Pronounced dead at the max security prison in West Nashville just before 11 o'clock this morning for the murders of his estranged wife and stepsons back in 1989. Here's their family afterward.
The pain of losing Judy, Chad, and Jason is something that we will continue to carry. It's not a moment that goes by that we don't miss them. I miss the sound of Judy's voice. I know my brother does as well. On the other end of the phone, we miss the excitement of planning Chad's driving lessons, and we miss the pure joy of hearing Jason's laughter.
Now, 35-year-old Judith Robert Smith and her sons, 13-year-old Jason Burnett and 16-year-old Chad Burnett, were murdered inside their Nashville home October 1st, 1989, with one prosecutor saying the boys died as heroes trying to save their mom. First responders and the NTSB assessing the damage today after a Cessna airplane crashed into a dense residential neighborhood in San Diego. Raina Krosno lives in the neighborhood, told ABC News what she saw when it happened early in the morning.
I was up with my toddler. She wasn't able to sleep. I believe it was like 5 or 10 seconds later, I heard a big crash. I assumed it was a car crash. And then seconds after that, we saw what looked like lightning.
Yeah, the plane was not that far from the airport, and officials say the crash created a fire that damaged homes and cars. At least 2 people died, 8 people were hurt. And a federal judge this afternoon blocked the revocation of international students' legal status just hours after the Trump administration barred Harvard from allowing foreign students to enroll at the university, claiming Harvard has refused to keep Jewish students safe from what it says are pro-Hamas sympathizers and still practices DEI policies. A federal judge in Massachusetts has blocked Trump administration efforts to dismantle the Department of Education, claiming it takes an act of Congress to end a federal agency. And the Supreme Court blocking the launch of the first public religious charter school, a Catholic school in Oklahoma. Justice Amy Coney Barrett, herself a Catholic, recused herself. The 4-4 deadlock means the court has held up the decision of a lower court, which has deemed it unconstitutional. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Eastern Split, police reporting a crash 40 westbound right there at 2440 East. And in the Belmont area, injury crash about to be wrapped up there, 65 northbound before Wedgwood. Kingston Springs, Cheatham County Highway Patrol reporting a crash 40 westbound there at exit 188. And looks like in Bellevue, got a crash Highway 100 just east of Chafin Drive. And in Dixon, got a crash reported by the Highway Patrol 40 eastbound near 840, exit 176. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hello, friends. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's hour number 2. I'm all tangled. Going to untangle myself. There. I've untangled myself.
You shorten that rope up a little bit.
I know. Roping up. This rope is long enough. Hang yourself with it. Anyway, 7 minutes after 4 o'clock. My name is Matt Murphy. There's Ken Weaver back in the newsroom. You hear him from time to time. He's always busy gathering headlines. It's been a breaking news kind of day. Chris Weber's with us as well. And we thank you for being along for the ride. 7 minutes after the hour of 4 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. One final thought on the execution of Oscar Franklin Smith, and then I'll move on from it. If you have any thoughts, I think we had a person on the line. They had to go that was friends with one of the youngsters. I've had several people on the Super Text line tell me that they went to school with some of these folks, which, I mean, obviously that stands to reason. Many of you who were here back in the day would remember this case, and in some cases, remember Chad, or what was the other young man's name? Chad and Justin.
Let me help.
Jason. I got it.
Jason.
Chad and Jason. And Judy Roberts Smith, who were killed, according to a jury of that. Now, Oscar Franklin Smith denied his participation in these deaths until his death, which happened earlier today, despite the fact that his handprint was found at the scene, despite the fact that there were a number of pieces of physical evidence that tied him to the scene, to include an awl that was missing from his workshop that was found at the scene of the crime, amongst other things. Mainly it was this handprint, the blood splatter, and that. 1989 was a little bit before DNA testing was as good as it is nowadays. But clearly a jury saw fit to sentence him to death. July 26th, 1990, he was sentenced to death by a jury of his peers in Davidson County. His execution was scheduled to be carried out by electric chair December 3rd of that year, 1990. He was allowed to delay that on appeal. And sadly, that delay eventually spanned 35 years. Now, many of you have wondered via the Super Text line and other means exactly what in the world took so long. I do not believe that if we are to engage in the death penalty, I do not believe that we do it right. I do believe that justice delayed is in some cases justice denied, and you see it over and over again when fathers and mothers and children of slain victims who want to see ultimate justice, not revenge, but justice done, they die before said justice is done. Now, once again, like I say, and look, I'm not gonna lay the. I could lay the smack down on this lady that wrote this op-ed piece. There's an op-ed piece in the Tennessean written by Bethany Roberts Mann. I don't know who this person is. She says that she is the organizer of a nonprofit called Child Arise Tennessee, which advocates for and works to advance the children of the incarcerated, and that she has been visiting men on death row for 15 years. So this person wrote a piece about being on death row the night before. I guess this was last night, and seeing Oscar Franklin Smith before his death, and she said, the last image I have of Oscar is with his head held against the glass, signing "I love you." Many opinions have been espoused and will continue to be espoused in the aftermath of his execution, but this much I know. Oscar Smith was a person worthy of being seen and worthy of being shown love. And there's an angel working at Riverbend Maximum Security Institution who made sure that happened. I will not belabor this op-ed because it, frankly, is enough to make you want to throw up. Because there is not one mention of the 3 people that Oscar Smith killed. Not one mention of the brutality of his murders. And secondarily, you know what? I might have some sympathy to your position. I wouldn't agree with it, but I might have sympathy to your position, Ms. Mann. Were it not for the fact that Oscar Smith never owned up to the murders, never owned up to what he did, never took responsibility for the taking of 3 lives, and I'm supposed to feel some semblance of love or mercy for him? No. Not going to happen. Now, on this issue of justice delayed, I think we could go a long way in capital murder cases in states where capital murder is still punishable by death. My idea has always been, and I'm not here to grow the government, I'm not here to grow the judiciary, but I believe that an appellate panel should sit in the criminal trial. I've long thought this. Here's the idea. You have a judge in the case, you have a jury in the case, obviously. I believe that a 3-judge appellate panel should sit and observe the trial silently, not participating in it in any way, which will give... These appeals take so long because of briefs written and because the judges in the cases have to go over the appeal and they have to go over the trial transcript and they have to do this and that and the other thing. I mean, and it just takes an enormous amount of time. And I believe that you could speed up this process by having a 3-judge panel sit the case, and any and all appeals that are going to be initiated by the defense after sentencing have to be initiated within 30 days to that 3-judge panel. And then from that 3-judge panel, it immediately goes to the Tennessee Supreme Court. So you go 3-judge panel, they make a ruling on whether or not the appeal works for them. And if they do not, because they observed all of these proceedings, they ought to be able to judge on this in a timely fashion. And you immediately go to the Tennessee Supreme Court. Now, obviously, the individuals in the case will still have an ability to route this through the federal process, which is a lot of the delay that we're seeing. But I do believe that this could speed up the state process considerably. Is it a fix-all? No, it's not a fix-all, but it could speed it up because we should not be wasting 35 years before we see justice in a case like this. Am I hard-hearted? Yeah, you're damn right I am. Why? Well, just go look at the brutality of some of these murders and tell me why we shouldn't be. Ronald is up on this subject from McMinnville. Ronald, thank you for your call. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
So my mom was married to Oscar Frank Smith. That was her first husband.
Whoa. Did you say your daughter? Your wife?
No, my mother.
Your mother. Oh, gosh, I got it wrong twice. So your mother was married to this person?
Unfortunately, for several years.
Oh, wow.
She married, her name's Wanda, and that's all I'm going to say about her name, but she married him at the age of 13. He was 21. He was very mean to her.
Wow.
Raped her, shot at her with guns, kidnapped her at one point and took her out of state. When she got away from him, finally was able to get away from him, she met my father. He attempted to kill my father, chasing him down the road in Nashville with a gun. Frank Smith got exactly what was coming to him. And I can only hope that in his heart he made peace with Jesus before he died, because if not, he'll suffer.
That's well spoken, Ronald, and I agree with it 100%. Is your mother still with us? She's still alive?
She's still living, but I'm going to tell you, she still remembers. And
have you had? And I'm not asking. I'm obviously not asking for her identity. I want to protect her anonymity. But is she able? Has she been able to talk to you about her experience? I would think that this situation coming up now might bring back some of those awful memories.
Yeah, I spoke with her last night about it, and she said, well, it's about time.
My goodness.
She's, a few years back when he was up to be put down, he contacted my mother. Somehow he found a way, and he contacted my mother out of the blue, and he said, I just want to apologize to you for everything that I'd done to you. And she said, apologies accepted, but I have nothing to say to you. So,
in your experience, I mean, obviously your mother had to carry this burden with her, but she also had to feel like she, and your father for that matter, considering what this man was capable of, literally and figuratively dodged a bullet.
They did. They did dodge a bullet. And I'm thankful that my mom, is married and she's lived a pretty good life after all of that. But, I guess things were different back in the 70s because she tried to get help a few times to get away from him, and it was hard.
Wow. That's an incredible story, Ronald. Thank you for sharing it, and just wish your mama well from all of us, would you?
Thank you. I will.
Absolutely. Thank you for the call. My goodness gracious. Ronald calling in saying his mother was the underage bride of Oscar Franklin Smith at a time prior to his marriage to Judy Robert Smith. 18 after the hour, Supertalk 99.7 WTN. Speaking of justice delayed or justice denied, sad to report that we've got a couple of cases of that going on in Nashville, Tennessee. A bicyclist, according to a story from WKRN, a bicyclist was killed in a hit-and-run crash in Antioch last night. The crash happened in the 600 block of Bell Road outside the Preakness apartment complex at around 10:30 last evening. According to Metro Police, preliminary investigation indicates that Larissa Houston, or Houston, I'm going to go with Houston, 23, was crossing Bell Road on an electric bike when she was hit by a dark sedan traveling westbound. The sedan reportedly sped off, running several red lights along the way. Authorities said it was last seen near I-24 and Bell Road, that interchange. Officials said Houston was brought to Vanderbilt University Medical Center where she died. Investigators are attempting to obtain video of the incident, at least as of the writing of this article from this morning. And obviously, if you have any information about the deadly crash, you're asked to call Crime Stoppers, 615-742-7463. The sedan is believed to be, I want to say this sedan was believed to be red in color because of some of the debris that was found at the scene of the crash. So you have that crash going on in Davidson County. Story number 2. The mother of a man who was seriously injured by a hit and run Sunday evening is calling out Nashville for not having license plate readers. Zach Carach, or Carach, that's C-A-R-A-C-H, I'll go with Carach, and his family were reportedly visiting Nashville over the weekend to celebrate his 21st birthday. This past Sunday at around 6 o'clock, in a surveillance video, you can see Zach looking both ways before crossing the crosswalk on Church Street. Moments later, footage shows a silver Mitsubishi Mirage hitting Zach, throwing him airborne, and then driving off. I've seen this video. It's hard to watch. I mean, he was struck squarely on the passenger's front side of the vehicle, thrown into the air. Metro Nashville Police Department said the Florida man sustained serious but non-life-threatening injuries in the crash. And as of today, or yesterday, I should say, he's reportedly recovering at Vanderbilt University Medical Center. According to the man's mother, she said that she had to call the cops. Please help me put pressure on this department to do something. Please help me to get this done. Fighting for answers in her son's case and asking why Nashville doesn't have LPRs. Why doesn't Nashville, as big as they are, have LPRs, license plate readers? I can't stress it enough. I'm not done fighting. I'm going to fight for my child until this is finished, but I'm going to fight for those other people, for those other people's children. I'm going to fight for justice for every single person that's been harmed here in the city. According to the man's mother, and her name is Sheena, and I'm looking for her, Sheena Karak, or Karak. Sheena Karak said her fight's paying off because Metro Nashville Police announced Tuesday that its traffic division found the Mirage from the hit and run at a Mount Juliet rental facility. However, investigators are still working to track down the driver. It's heartbreaking to see the vehicle and the vehicle footage. You can tell there's damage, but you can't see the severity of the damage until you look out as a mom and then you go, oh, my God, that was my child's body that made that. And rightfully so. Folks, I understand why some have concern about LPRs, but these are two cases that could have been more easily solved or would have been more easily solved, and we still don't know. I mean, in the hit and run that happened last night, no information about the driver in the case. Would it have been easier to solve this case with license plate readers? I would suggest to you, yes. Why is Freddie O'Connell so worried about the health and safety of those who are here illegally in the state of Tennessee, in Davidson County, but he doesn't seem to be that worried enough about I mean, look, I'm sure that if Freddie were here, he'd tell you that he's concerned about a hit and run. He's concerned about somebody getting struck on an electric bicycle. No doubt. I mean, killed. And this other guy is lucky to be alive at Vanderbilt University Medical Center. One wonders how more swiftly we could solve these hit and runs if we had LPRs. I'm a civil libertarian. I understand the dangers of LPRs, and I'm comfortable with this technology. Mount Juliet solves crime after crime after crime coming out of Nashville as a result of this. So I would say to Freddie O'Connell, if you're that worried about the health and safety of our community, why are you not pressing on the city council? Why are you not taking the opportunity? Use these examples in the next council meeting. Use these examples as a reason why they need to get the contracts done. Present the contracts to the council, Freddie. What are you waiting on? What are you waiting on? For another person to die? 24 after the hour on Super Talk. Hello, friends. Matt Murphy here for Alpha and Omega. They are not new to Nashville. They're not new to our community, and they're not new to the managed services industry. They've been around serving Middle Tennessee since 1998, and I'm proud to tell you about them. 24/7 protection from evolving threats in cyberspace, compliance for all industries, business continuity, a fast local help desk. It's what they do at Alpha and Omega Computer Consultants. They do all things IT for you. They do all things cybersecurity for you. Did you know that 70% of cyber attacks are targeting small to medium-sized businesses? The obvious reason, because they don't believe that you have appropriate cybersecurity measures in place, and they think you are an easier target. And they'll attack you, and they will get to you if you let them. Do not let them. Get Alpha and Omega on your team. In the financial world, data security isn't just important, it's everything, and Alpha and Omega can help you with that as well. And as a business owner, your time is valuable. It's crucial. It's everything you have. And if you have IT issues, it can slow you down and cause your business to have problems. Don't allow this to happen either. Go with Alpha and Omega. They are local. I love that. Michael is right here in our community. His team is right here in our community. They can talk to you one-on-one. Emergency services are available, but rarely needed at Alpha and Omega. Call today at 615-784-0096, 784-0096, or go online, a&o.net. That's a&o.net. If you consider yourself pro-life, here's a wake-up call for you. Despite the overturning of Roe v. Wade, overall abortions increased nearly 1% last year. What does this look like? It translates to over 100,000 additional babies' lives lost, totaling an estimated 1,038,100 unborn babies. Every one of these lives is precious. The Ministry of Preborn is on the front lines advocating for those beautiful souls who never had a chance to grow up. Preborn's network of clinics are strategically located in the country's highest abortion areas, ready to support women making decisions about their babies' futures. Through compassionate and loving care and free ultrasounds, Preborn helps women connect with the life growing inside of them. Once she hears the heartbeat, her baby's chances at life doubles. Last year alone, Preborn rescued over 67,000 babies. Will you help support the next rescue? Your monthly support of $28 makes this mission possible. Go to pound 250 and say the keyword baby. That's pound 250, say baby, or preborn.com/Murphy.
Sad news to report about a missing Clarksville boy, and for the first time in more than 5 years, Tennessee has carried out an execution. These stories and more coming up at 4:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
And that's coming up in mere seconds on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. 8679 writes in from the Super Text line. You're always invited, 615-737-9986. My wife passed 4 Tennessee Highway Patrol officers in a white unmarked law enforcement vehicle on 41A near Eagleville. Had a semi-truck with a canvas-style trailer and about 10 people. She described them as Mexicans or Latinos sitting in the ground about an hour ago. Of course, I'm making an assumption it could have been another type of stop, but either way, good on them. I am fascinated with the number of businesses and the number of police departments willing to tell you that they are actively attempting to avoid complying with the law. And I point directly to the city of Leverne. Now, look, we didn't get into this situation overnight, and I know that it's a complex one. I understand that we've been 25, 30, 35, 40, 45 years getting ourselves into this situation. But it is time that we demand more of our police departments. And I'm going to tell you this story about a meeting that happened in the city of Leverne last night, where Leverne essentially said, hey, we do everything we can possibly do not to ask them about their immigration status. We got to comply with the law, y'all. We're sorry. They're apologizing for complying with the law. More on that coming up. Plus, I want to talk to you about Kid Rock and Kid Rock's little bar downtown. More on the way on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Sad news to report about a missing 12-year-old Clarksville boy. Channel 4 says investigators recovered his body from the Red River today. They'd been looking for him since Sunday when his father says he was swimming and went under and never came back. For the first time in more than 5 years, Tennessee's carried out an execution. 73-year-old Oscar Franklin Smith pronounced dead by lethal injection just before 11 o'clock this morning at the Max Prison in West Nashville for the 1989 killing of his estranged wife and 2 teenage stepsons. The victim's family afterward.
As a family of the victims, we believe that in the importance of accountability and the role of the judicial system that it plays in maintaining safety and order of our society. The sentence was not ours to determine, but we stand by the legal system that made the decision.
There had been legal challenges to the state's revised lethal injection protocol, but Governor Lee denied a request to pause executions. Federal charges now filed against 31-year-old Elias Rodriguez, the man accused of gunning down 2 Israeli embassy staff members last night at an event at a Jewish museum in D.C. U.S. Attorney Janine Pirro says the murder and gun charges are just the beginning and more could be added as the investigation unfolds.
Defendant Rodriguez is also charged with 2 counts of murder in the first degree for both Yaron Lashinsky along with 26-year-old Sarah Lynn Milgram of Kansas.
Authorities say after the shooting, the suspect started chanting a pro-Palestinian phrase. Pirro says there's no space for anti-Semitism in Washington, D.C. And the Trump administration revoking Harvard's ability to enroll international students because of claims by Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. Harvard refuses to protect Jewish students from pro-Hamas sympathizers and still uses DEI policies. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Over by the airport, police say the left lane is blocked by a crash 40 eastbound after Donaldson Pike. And then in Kingston Springs, the Highway Patrol reporting a crash 40 westbound approaching Kingston Springs, Ashland City Highway 249, exit 188. And also an injury crash. Police reporting this is going to be 40 westbound at the 2440 split. And then 40 eastbound near I-840. That's in Dixon. Highway Patrol on the scene. Traffic every 10 minutes, every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hello, friends. Matt Murphy for Eurofix. We mentioned Mount Juliet a little while ago. You know, Mount Juliet's got a brand new location. That location of Eurofix is right across the street from the Dairy Queen. You know, Eurofix has been growing for 26 years. Aaron Stokes is such a great success story. I mean, he's the type of small business story that you love, absolutely love talking about. He grew from just a barn in his backyard. And after 26 years, he now has 5 separate locations in which to serve you. And those locations are available all over our community. And it's basically, same deal, folks. They're going to be as clean as a pin when you walk in. They're never going to tell you that they can do something when they can't. They're never going to tell you that something's ready when it's not. They're going to be honest with you as the day is long. And it's pretty cool to watch a small-town mechanic who started in a barn over 26 years, grow to 5 different locations, and fixing thousands of cars on a monthly basis. 3-year nationwide warranty, free loaner car with every repair appointment. And there's a Dairy Queen across from the Eurofix in Mount Juliet, so you can go get you a dipped cone while they're fixing your car. How about that? 5 locations I mentioned: Franklin, 100 Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and the aforementioned Mount Juliet. Go to myEurofix.com. That's myEurofix.com or 844-EUROFIX. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Our good friend Representative Scott Sapicki has issued a statement regarding the murder of the 2 Jewish staffers outside of the Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C. last night. Scott Sapicki, along with Representative Tori Harris of Memphis, who is a Democrat, so it's a bipartisan statement, part of the Tennessee Israel Legislative Caucus, said we should all condemn the murder of 2 Israeli embassy staffers last night outside a Jewish event. Hatred and anti-Semitism have no place in the United States, and we remain steadfast in our commitment to protecting the rights of all Tennesseans to work freely, or to worship freely and work. We will be praying for the families of the victims and the staff of the Israel Ministry of Foreign Affairs. That's from Sapicki and Representative Tori Harris of Memphis. It doesn't seem to take too much to offer these sentiments, but sadly, it's too much for individuals like Ilhan Omar, who was asked and avoided answering questions from reporters regarding the shooting in Washington, D.C. that killed 2 Israeli embassy staffers departing the Capitol Jewish Museum last night. Sadly, because of the dynamics and the narrative that this creates, the mainstream media will avoid these stories. Have you noticed this? How willing they are to avoid stories that they just don't care that much about because, they just don't care that much about them. I'm fascinated with the level of avoidance that people have regarding the amount of anti-Semitism that's going on in this country. As a result, not of Israel attacking Hamas, not of Israel attacking Palestine. I suppose one could understand that on some level. Hamas attacked Israel. Hamas initiated this assault. Hamas went after Israel in 2023. Hamas was the one that killed well in excess of 1,000 Jews and keep them in captivity to this moment. We still have Americans in captivity. Now, they're not alive, but they remain in captivity. And many Israelis remain in captivity as well. So you liberal hack reporters that choose not to report on this, instead, you liberal hack reporters go to great lengths to avoid discussing subjects that really don't have any, you're just not interested in, like this subject of this killing. How long did we hear about the healthcare CEO that died at the hands of this scumbag in New York City? But they couched that in terms of, there are many people that are very upset about the healthcare industry. And in the meantime, earlier today, Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, she was smoking these reporters based on some of their questions. These liberal hack reporters from NBC, why did they go to such great lengths to avoid discussing racially motivated mass murder? Now, many of these reporters have gotten caught up in the word genocide. All of this is based on the Trump administration's decision to allow somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 families. I think it's families. I don't think it's individuals. If I'm wrong on that, y'all correct me. I know you will. Individuals to come from South Africa, Afrikaners as they're known. These are white individuals that grew up in South Africa whose families had migrated there through colonialization many, many years ago. And they have been farming in those communities and raising crops in those communities for many, many years. And they are now watching as their farms are seized from them because they are white and because it has been determined by the government and by the general population that because they are white, they do not deserve the property that they are on because it has been determined that it was improperly taken generations ago. But beyond that, these white Afrikaners are being killed by the general population, and it's allowed to happen by the government and even promoted by individuals within the government. As Donald Trump pointed out yesterday to the South African president, right in his face, he said, there's a genocide going on. No, there's not, Mr. President. Here it is. Here it is. And as a portion of the clip that Donald Trump played, now I want you to think about this for a moment. There is no denying by any media outlet on planet Earth that is willing to tell you the facts of this case, the facts of what's happening on the ground, that there are people that are having their property taken from them and that there are people, white people have been killed in South Africa because they're white. Repeatedly. Now, there are a lot of people dying in South Africa, and there is a tremendous amount of black-on-black crime in South Africa with black South Africans killing black South Africans for the most part. Now, obviously, the population dynamics are such that it is most likely that a black South Africaner will be killed because most people are black. All right? But there are disproportionate numbers of white South Africaners being killed specifically because they are white, because there are people in that country that want to eradicate the white people from their midst. They are on record as saying this. And toward that end, there is a memorial that has been set up noting all of these South Africaners who have been killed because of their race, because they're white. And Donald Trump referred to that as a graveyard. And because Donald Trump referred to it as a graveyard, the media has lost their ever-loving mind. It's not really a graveyard. Unsubstantiated claim. That's not really a graveyard. That's a memorial. Or whatever the hell there's. What the hell's your point? So you get caught up in, there aren't graves there. These are just grave markers. The murders happened. Why are you going to this length to avoid discussing racially motivated mass murder in South Africa if you're a reporter in America? Because you hate Donald Trump and because you're so desperate to show some lie that Donald Trump is a racist. You're just desperate to do it. Look, he's letting white people into the country and there's not even anything going on. He's allowing them refuge. You same scumbags dismissed 8.5 to 10.5 million people coming into this country during the Biden administration illegally. No problem. Come on in. The water's fine. And now you have your panties all up in a bunch over 60 because they're white? Because they're white. Listen to this exchange as this NBC reporter, she doesn't want to talk about the death of white people. She doesn't want to talk about the racially motivated mass murder of white people. She wants to talk about the fact that this wasn't really a graveyard.
Yamish, good to see you.
Hi, good. Thanks for taking the question.
Sure.
The president showed a video that he said showed more than 1,000 burial sites of white South Africans that he said were murdered. We know that that was not true and that the video wasn't showing that. So I wonder, why did the president choose to show that?
What's not true, Yamish?
It's not true that the video was showing a burial site. It is unsubstantiated that that's the case.
No, it is true that that video showed the crosses that represent
what the president claimed.
Now, hold on. Before we continue to listen to this piece, understand what's going on here. This woman's like, it wasn't a burial site. These were crosses. Each one of them had a name associated with it. Every single one of them had a person associated with it. And every single one of them had a person that was killed in South Africa as a result of their color. But it wasn't a burial site.
The video showed images of crosses in South Africa about white farmers who have been killed and politically persecuted because of the color of their skin. And those crosses are representing their lives. Those crosses are representing their lives in the fact that they are now dead and their government did nothing about it. Are you disputing that there's no...
The fact that the video showed what the president claimed it showed, because it did not show that. But even more, what I'm asking you is who at the White House...
No, it did show that. It showed white crosses representing people who have perished because of racial persecution.
Verifies the videos that the president shows, and what protocols are in place when there's unsubstantiated information being put out for the world and world leaders to
Yamish,
show?
what's unsubstantiated about the video? The video shows crosses that represent the dead bodies of people who were racially persecuted by their government. In fact, the Associated Press, of all places, has a picture of that very monument, and the caption from the Associated Press is, "Each cross marks a white farmer who has been killed in a farm murder." So it is substantiated, not just by that video and the physical evidence that everybody saw on display in the Oval Office, but also by another outlet in this room, the Associated Press. So you should take it up with them if you believe the claim is unsubstantiated. And that's
why are these NBC reporters and others so determined to avoid the discussion of what's going on there? I mean, this is a subject matter because they made it a subject matter, okay? They're the ones that got all upset about Donald Trump's administration allowing refugee status for these 60 families. Because these 60 families sincerely feared for their lives. That's what we were told asylum ought to be. Now, I'm on record as saying, because I'm consistent, if it were Murphy World, they would not have been granted asylum because no one would be granted asylum right now because the asylum program would have been shut down by now. In Murphy World, we would have already instituted the 12-month moratorium on any immigration into the United States of America. That would have started in January in Murphy World. But we don't live in Murphy World. We live in Trump World. And in Trump World, he's allowing these individuals to come in, as is his right as president. The media is just bound and determined. He's only doing it because they're white. There's not really a threat there. What frickin' planet are you people living on? Where have you been? It does not take a rocket scientist or a brain surgeon to figure any of this out. Just go to the Google machine and look it up. Wears me out. Wears me out. And I haven't forgotten about Leverne, by the way. Several of you are like, did you forget about Leverne? No, I haven't forgotten about Leverne. I can get to Leverne, too. We got plenty of time to do all of that. I'm going to get to Leverne. I'm going to get to my favorite subject on planet Earth, the elimination of the penny. It's coming, buddy.
I'm for it, man.
Have you seen the latest?
I have not.
I'm going to go ahead and take a step forward on this adventure. Nickel's next. Wow. Let's take care of the nickel. You know how much a nickel costs to make?
I bet it's more than a nickel.
It's more than a nickel.
Mm-hmm.
You want to guess?
8 cents.
It's not 8 cents.
7 cents.
It's more than that.
10 cents.
It's more than that.
Ooh.
More than a dime. More than a dime. I'll tell you. Coming up in a little bit, take your calls. David and Bud, y'all hang in there. It's 52 after on Super Talk. I'm excited about the maintenance guarantee offered by Efficient Heating and Cooling. My man, Jeff Eddy. I like to say if your AC's not ready, call Jeff Eddy. And it's probably not ready if you've not gotten it maintenanced because it's got a smell going on to it, or, you're working it and it's not up to snuff. Maybe it's difficult. You feel like it's working really, really hard to keep the temperature at the condition that you want it to be inside of your home. If that's the case, let's get a maintenance job done. It will never cost you over $125, and oftentimes at your residence, it costs you a lot less than that. And as always, I want you to keep the maintenance guarantee in mind. This is what that means. If you get your unit maintenance and you spend a little of that money and to make sure that everything's running as it should, if anything happens during this summer season, they will come back out. Jeff Eddy and their team will come back out to you. They will get you fixed up, and their service fee will be completely waived. How about that? And that's the maintenance guarantee from Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling. They offer finance options for those of you who are in need of a new unit. We understand that, too. They're an Elite Pro partner with Ream. Give them a call, 615-784-4424, 784-4424 for Efficient. The Wellness Institute of Nashville wants to see you, all of you who are currently in pain. If you're in pain on your, maybe it's your lower back or your upper back, anywhere on your back for that matter. Perhaps it's your knees or your hips or your elbows, wherever you hurt. Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Ashley can assist at the Wellness Institute of Nashville. It's less expensive than ever because of their big 47 deal in 2025. You've heard about this, right? 47% off spinal decompression in 2025, thanks to our 47th president of the United States of America. You can have a pain-free life, friends, without having to consider surgery. Non-surgical options are available for you, like the incredible non-surgical spinal decompression that we talk about quite often. Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Ashley are the experts, and they have the most modern technologies available at their fingertips to assist you. The goal is always singular, to help alleviate your pain, and they do it. I made the switch to the Wellness Institute of Nashville, and I encourage you to do the same thing. Go to painisbad.com, because it is. Painisbad.com, or call 615-246-5009, 246-5009 for the Wellness Institute of Nashville.
Body recovered, execution of a convicted killer, and a Middle Tennessee police chief explains how officers will not ask about immigration status. Coming up at 5 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, by the way, boys, y'all see my email? Y'all check your email?
I saw that.
How about that?
Mm-hmm.
Go get it fixed.
Sounds like fun.
It wasn't real till this morning when he described it. All that goes into it.
Did he say something about a goat's beard or something like that?
Yeah, goat's beard.
Is that what it is?
Oh, yeah, got a goat's beard.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, going to get that goat's beard off of there.
Mm-hmm.
Gonna cut my arm open. Ugh. And then basically cut my arm off and put it back together.
What?
You put it that way, it doesn't sound so
that's
fun.
that's what it is, Weaver.
No, they're not going to do that.
Hey, but they're gonna take my shoulder apart. Is that not cutting my arm off?
I don't think they're going to totally dislodge it from,
I was getting ready to say.
from your body, but yeah, that's pretty close.
They're going to do that, then send you back in the waiting room?
We'll get this fixed right up for you. We'll call you back in a bit.
I'll tell you exactly what we're talking about in just a moment. I'm very excited. I'm going to have a bion. I am on my way to being the $6 million man.
Yes.
It's a childhood dream, and I'm on my way, baby.
We got to get that sound effect they use.
Well, Weber's the sound man, so
I'll work on that.
We'll get him on it. It is almost 5 o'clock. David and Bud, and I had an Uncle Bud one time.
Everybody does.
I loved my Uncle Bud. He was a trip. We'll talk to you in just a moment. It is now 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
5 o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. We've got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Sad news out of Clarksville today. Crews recovered the body of a 12-year-old boy missing since Sunday when his father says he went under the water in the Red River while swimming and never came back up. The body found about a half mile downstream. For the first time in 5 years, Tennessee has carried out an execution. 73-year-old Oscar Smith given a lethal injection and pronounced dead just before 11 o'clock this morning at the Max Prison in West Nashville for the 1989 killing of his estranged wife, 35-year-old Judith Robert Smith, and her sons, 13-year-old Jason Burnett and 16-year-old Chad Burnett. And a woman who was hit by a car while riding her bicycle in Antioch last night has died. The driver of the car kept on going.
Police believe the suspect was driving a red SUV. Now, that description is based on the debris left at the scene. And there is a bike lane there. Right now, we are working to learn from police if the woman was in the bike lane when she was hit by that car.
That's Channel 4's Joylyn Bukovac telling us Metro Nashville police hope someone can help identify the driver of that red SUV. Don't be afraid to call police. That's the message from Leverne's police chief, Christopher Mose.
There are communities in Leverne that are losing trust in law enforcement in this country right now, and it's going to make our job that much more difficult.
Mose making those comments at a town hall last night and admitted his officers used techniques to avoid asking about immigration status.
If that does not come up during the course of the investigation, all right, we are... then we actually have no knowledge of somebody's immigration status, and then we're not bound by law.
Mose says Leverne Police and Tennessee Highway Patrol are going to be conducting joint traffic stops, but he says they'll not include ICE. According to charging documents released in court today, the man accused of shooting 2 Israeli embassy staff members outside a Jewish museum event last night admitted to the murder, saying he did it for Gaza. 31-year-old Elias Rodriguez charged with murder of foreign officials and other crimes. According to the case files, police have surveillance video of the shooting. Here's ABC News Chief Justice Correspondent Pierre Thomas.
We're getting some disturbing new details from the complaint, which we've just been able to look over. This was an execution by the accounts of law enforcement. The complaint lays out how they found surveillance video. And in the surveillance video, you can see the suspect shoot the 2 victims in the back, and then stand over them and continue to shoot again and again.
A National Transportation Safety Board official says the private jet that crashed in a San Diego neighborhood this morning first struck a power line 2 miles before the crash site. Ruben Krosno lives in the neighborhood.
It was just really surreal to hear the electricity and everything from the power line or whatever had been hit, to seeing the explosion of light, and then seeing all the little bit of flames that we could see from our bedroom window. And then as I'm driving over there, seeing just 10-foot plus flame in the air.
ABC News has now confirmed that 3 people died on board the plane. The music talent agency Sound Talent Group, which has offices in Nashville, says its co-founder Dave Shapiro, also the owner of the plane, and 2 more employees were killed. The FAA now says 6 people were on board, 8 people injured on the ground, several houses impacted by the crash. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Glencliff, police reporting a crash 40 eastbound at Spence Lane. Then in Cheatham County, Highway Patrol still working 40 westbound approaching Kingston Springs, Ashland City Highway 249, exit 188. Rivergate, a stalled vehicle on the left shoulder. You got to slow down to get around it. 65 northbound before Vietnam Veterans Boulevard. Then in South Nashville, TDOT reporting a crash 24 westbound before Murfreesboro Pike. And in Dixon County, we got a crash reported by Highway Patrol, I-40 eastbound near I-840. Traffic every 10 minutes, every morning on Super Talk, 99.7 WTN.
Back after it, there's an entirely different conversation that goes on the YouTube channel over there on the Talk TV side of things, and they're getting downright rough over there.
No holds barred, huh?
It's always rough. Well, I got accused of needing to do some upper body work. Let's just put it that way. Y'all go over there and look at it.
Getting personal, huh?
A guy comes in and says, "Hey, what's up, guys?" And then he said, "Matt's got some tickle bitties." That's what he said. I'm like, and I've been seeing the advertisement. Have y'all seen these online Facebook advertisements for that little cruncher thing, that little exercise thing? Maybe it's just me. Maybe the Facebook knows I got some tickle bitties too. So it's one of these things that.
Isn't that the thing Suzanne Summers used to advertise?
No, that's the Thigh Master, you jerk. This one's for the arms.
Oh. I bet it's the exact same thing.
What?
Rebranded.
Maybe.
That's why you got to wear them big old shirts.
I know. So that people don't talk. Yeah. Hey, and by the way, Travis, eyes are up here, buddy. Eyes are right here. Watching you. Anyway, you can join in on that frivolity by going over to Talk TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. Talk TV is always up and running, as is iHeart, Spotify, TuneIn, and, of course, 99.7 FM. Thank you for being around. It's just after 5 o'clock. For those of you just getting off work, thank you for choosing us on your drive home. Many choices on your radio dial. You picked us, and for that, we are most thankful. By the way, before I get back into the subjects at hand, Ken Weaver, congratulations.
How's that?
Well, Ken, you made your football team. Football. So, we're just as excited as we can be about the 2025 football season, but it's still a fur piece, as my pa used to say. So the folks at The Athletic, I subscribe to The Athletic. They do good work over there. It's a sports-based website. Mm-hmm. As the dog days of summer come upon us, they're trying to fill the void by it's year 2025, so we've had 25 years of football competition in the 2000s. And so they're ranking the top 25 of everything. Yeah. Right? They're ranking the top 25 teams and the top 25 players and the top 25 this and the top 25 that.
Right.
Today, they ranked the top 25 football games of the 2000s.
All right.
And, Ken, I'm pleased to note that your Oklahoma Sooners made 2 of the top 5 games.
Probably lost both of them.
Well, you kind of I don't want to bury the lead. Yes, you did lose both of them.
I figured.
Would you care to guess?
Yeah.
Of the two games that they claim that Oklahoma was a part of.
Yeah.
That are the top 5 games of the 2000s.
Yeah. The one in Boise, which they still show every year around January.
That is number 2. Yeah.
And then the Rose Bowl.
That is number 5.
Yeah.
Man, you nailed him.
Who won that Rose Bowl? I forget.
was the Georgia Bulldog.
Want me to tell you who lost it?
Glory, glory to Georgia. We spotted you 2 touchdowns and we came back to win the game.
I tell you who lost that game. That was Lincoln Riley who lost that game. Stupid squib kick there at halftime and let that Rodrigo boy kick a 50-yard field goal. And what was the deficit of the game? 3 points.
Y'all were
not
up.
That you're bitter or anything.
No. Y'all were up 31-14 late in the second quarter.
Hey, here's Lincoln Riley. Hey, guys, I got a great idea. Let's squib kick to Georgia and get that ball back. Because if we don't, I don't think their excellent field goal kicker could hit a 50-yarder.
Y'all have to forgive Ken. It's only been 8 years.
Wow, has it been that long?
It's been 8 years.
Man.
And that was the moment. And I don't know about you, and we're not going to talk sports, y'all, but that was the moment that I was like, oh, my gosh, this is going to be really good with Kirby. Because those were the games that Mark Richt always lost.
Oh, absolutely.
Always lost.
Yeah.
No offense to Mark Richt. God love him, and I hope he's doing well with his health concerns. But, yeah, I mean, that was the game. It was like I thought we lost it, and we come back and win it. I was like, okay.
This is different.
That was a great game. Woo! I mean, it was
2 OTs. Sony Michel and Nick Chubb on one side of the ball. Baker Mayfield. Oh, man. Baker Mayfield on the other side of the ball. It took me like 5 years to like Baker Mayfield again. And now I like he's starting for somebody. Tampa Bay.
Yeah, the Bucks.
Anyway, Bulldogs made number 5 on that
biscuit eater.
Anyway, I just wanted your
I'm not lying. They still show that freaking Fiesta Bowl in Boise like every year.
And sad, y'all are just on the sad end because they want to do that to show that all these little schools can get it done, y'all, in the biggest games and blah, 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 and whatever. Was that the one that they did the hook and ladder?
Statue of Liberty or something like the hook and ladder.
4th and 18, they converted the hook and ladder. I've got the details right here, Ken. You want me to go over them?
No. But I did get a chance. Get this. I sat by Coach Pete at church not long after that. And I looked at him and I said, "You're a dirty dog."
In church? In church? You called him a dirty dog in church?
You're a dirty, and he just laughed.
He thought that was funny, did he?
He did. He thought that was real funny.
For those interested, Boise State, Oklahoma was the second, according to The Athletic, best college football game of the 2000s. The number one was 2005 Rose Bowl, Texas 41, USC 38.
You mean Vince Young and USC?
Yes, I do. Hard to dispute that. And then the number 3 game, Kick 6.
Kick 6.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, good gracious.
Oh.
Yeah. Erica was at that game.
Oh, that's the short field goal.
Mm-hmm. That was the week after the game that I was at, the stupid Prairie Jordan Hare game. That was 2 weeks after the Prairie Jordan Hare game. But see, we had lost that game. We were down by like 21 points, and then somehow came back to take the lead. And then it was 4th and 19. I was on the sideline. Y'all can see Fat Matt Murphy. Because I was about 280 pounds. You talk about some tickle bitties. They were some tickle bitties. See, that's why it doesn't bother me now because, you can call me tickle bitties now, but then there was tickle bitties and big old everything else. But I'm there on the sidelines. You can see me. I got tan pants on and a black shirt and a black sweater vest, and I'm standing right down from UGA. And you can see me right as Nick Marshall releases that 4th and 19 pass into double coverage that proceeded to bounce off one of our defenders' helmets and into the hand of that little Auburn fella that scampered for a touchdown.
Little Auburn
fella.
4th and 19. And I'll never forget it. I just have to finish the story because a couple things. That is the loudest moment of my life. And I'm on the they let media get on the field in the fourth quarter, and I'm on the field, and I go to the Georgia sidelines thinking I'm going to celebrate a victory, and I'm near the Georgia fan base. The Georgia band is over there. The fan base is over there. It was in Auburn. And when I was close enough. I was like standing 5 feet from Greg McGarity, the athletic director of the University of Georgia, and right down from him was Uga, you know? So, I mean, it was a moment, and we were going to win this football game, and I was going to remember it always as one of the most special memories of my life.
Yeah.
And Nick Marshall, the quarterback for Auburn, releases the football, and I look, and I see the 2 Georgia players back there.
Yeah.
And I turned around to celebrate with the Georgia fan base. And I'm ready to go. And the loudest moment of my life occurred. 85,000 people arrived. And it shows you how weird your mind works, because for some reason, the first thought are, what are you idiots cheering about? What? Huh? Say what? Tear your guts out.
Yeah.
That foosball ain't for sissies. It's not for sissies.
Bobby Boucher.
That's exactly right. South Africa on our minds. We were talking about that last hour, and several of you want to comment on it as well. Jerry wants to talk about money. I am all in favor of getting rid of the penny, not just the penny. I've been advocating to get rid of the penny for the last 20 years. How about let's get rid of the nickel, too? I'll tell you how much a nickel cost to make, and you won't believe it. It's a lot of money. It ain't a nickel. It's a lot more than a nickel. Let's get to it. David in Smyrna, thank you for your call, and thank you for your patience, David. How are you?
I'm good, Matt. How you doing?
Fabulous.
Well, I kind of wanted to touch on 2 things at once. So I'm a politically conservative Jewish guy, and I wish I could say I was surprised by the media's lack of breathless coverage of anti-Semitic hijinks, as well as their seemingly uncaring attitude about what's going on with the Boers in South Africa. But, I mean, let's be honest here. Is anybody really surprised? I mean, there is, my dad was a Navy officer, lower than whale crap at the bottom of the ocean, and that's what these people are. For people to sit there and say, oh, well, we care about, you pick and choose who you care about, and that just makes you a despicable person. Rightly so, everybody worries about genocide when it's minority groups, but when it's Jewish people, when it's white people, well, nobody cares about that. It's equally despicable. And every bit as despicable is these leftist hacks who try to excuse it or gloss over it or brush it under the table. And I'm sick to death of it. My cousin she's your stereotypical liberal Jewish girl. She works on the Hill. And we usually make it a point to not get into politics because we value our relationship more than politics. But there have been a few times where I tell her, I'm like, how is it that you can stand idly by while your side of the aisle glosses over this stuff? And I'm more mad about this than you are. And I have yet to hear a good answer.
Yeah, the selectivity is what you're talking about when you ask for an answer?
Selective outrage.
Yeah. Because the answer is this, David, and I'm going to let you go, and I'm going to let you keep listening on the radio, and I thank you for listening, bud. And you're right. If you have friend groups, nowadays, if you have friends who are left of center, or if you're a liberal and you're listening to this show and you have friends that are right of center, liberals have no problem screaming and yelling at conservatives or libertarians to address their point. I seriously doubt that you have not had some of those relationships dissolve if the liberals insist on talking about politics. I make a point not to unless people ask me to. But that's almost with regularity in my life outside of this radio show because I do this for a living, and we talk about this obviously we talk politics quite a bit. So I'm not going to go to a dinner party. I'm not going to be the doctor that goes to a dinner party and wants to talk about surgery. But people naturally, if they find out what you do, they want to do it, and I don't have a problem with that either. I will offer my opinion, but I'm not going to argue people down. I argue people down on this show. I will argue people down in this context. But if we meet out and about and you're a lefty, I'm not. You live your life of your own choosing. That's what America's all about. You can be wrong till the cows come home, for all I care. I mean, you're wrong. Don't get me wrong, and I'll tell you how if you want me to. But to your point, what was the caller's name? I forgot. David. To your point, David. The political left does not have the courage of core conviction. What they know what the media narrative is. They understand what their thought bosses tell them, and they roll with that. They don't have any depth of understanding about many of these issues that they purport to believe in. And because of that, they don't really have any issue being hypocrites. And secondarily, they don't see any hypocrisy in shifting their stance based on the narrative that's being advanced. So if you can find someone that has a depth of knowledge on the issues of South Africa, for example, then, talk to them about that. Ask them if what is going on in South Africa right now, not the land seizure, because they'll justify the land seizure because of the colonialization that happened back in the day. No, the murder of white people because they are white. They won't justify that. They can't. Obviously, they can't. The selectivity in terms of the outrage on the part of the mainstream media goes to the narratives of the mainstream media. And all I can tell you is that their interests are involved in promoting and advancing the cause of power for the political left. And the political left wants power and control. That's what they want. And they do not believe that the American people ought to be able to make decisions about how they lead their daily lives. They believe that most of those decisions ought to be made by the political class in Washington, D.C. And that is a fact that is proven time and time again based on their actions. They don't believe that you, the parents, should make decisions about your child's education. They believe the federal, not the states, the federal government should be making those decisions. They do not believe that you should be making decisions about your health. They believe the government should be involved in that decision making. And on and on and on it goes. They do not believe that you are the best steward of your money. They believe that they are the best stewards of your money. And they bake all of this and shield themselves from criticism with all of this based on the idea that they're doing it for the least of these. And they're not doing it for the least of these. If they were, they're doing a piss poor job at it because it's not accomplishing anything. And it's not helping the people that they purport to help. It's benefiting them. 24 after the hour. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hello, friends. It's Matt Murphy. Let's talk about the sleep that you're getting. You sleeping well tonight? Well, if you have Tennessee Sleep in your life, and that would be the Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solutions Center, you are sleeping better than most. Here's the bottom line. Dr. Brian McLaughlin wants to remind you that if you don't sleep well, the possibility exists, especially if you snore, that you have sleep apnea. Now, non-snorers can have sleep apnea too. I'm an example of that. I did not snore very much, but years ago, Dr. Paz recommended that I get a sleep test. I did, and now Dr. Brian McLaughlin has given me a re-examination, and he's told me a couple of fun facts. One, that I did not just have moderate, I had moderate to serious sleep apnea when I did my sleep test. We went over those numbers, but now that I have an FDA-approved oral device, I pop it in my mouth before I go to bed, and I sleep like a baby. I sleep through the night. I don't have to worry about snoring, obviously. I did some mild snoring, but not a lot of it. But most importantly, I breathe throughout the course of the night. That's the bottom line on this. The treatment is for folks who can't handle a CPAP machine or want an alternative to a CPAP, and it works. Find out more by going to TennesseeSleep.com. That's TennesseeSleep.com, or go by one of their two locations, one in Murfreesboro, the other in Brentwood. It's the Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solution Center.
Search for a missing 12-year-old boy comes to a heartbreaking end. A Tennessee community is mourning the loss of a beloved store clerk murdered during an armed robbery. These stories and more at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. That's coming up in mere moments. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So I promised you a conversation about Kid Rock's bar downtown. What they call that? What is that? The Big Ass Bar? What is it called? I forget.
Honky Tonk. Big ass honky tonk.
Yeah, okay. And look, I understand that Kid Rock doesn't own it. I think it's Steve Smith that owns it, who also owns Tootsie's and
most of them. It seems like.
I mean, yeah, it feels like he owns a lot of them. And look, I got nothing against Smith. But I'm a little bit fascinated with people that give good lip service to the idea of shoring up our immigration policy here in the United States of America until it comes such time as to open up the doors to their kitchen. And reports were that it was Kid Rock's joint that, we had a report a week and a half ago that they were sending kitchen help home on Lower Broadway. And the report is now that it was Kid Rock's place. And I asked on social media, look, I understand that Kid Rock doesn't control it. And his name is on the door. He does not own the business. For lack of a better way of putting it, I'm not trying to be too indelicate here, but he sells his name to the business. But that creates a connective tissue between Kid Rock and the business, right? So you are going to be held in some way responsible for the actions of the business if your name's on the business. Well, apparently they were sending people home out of the kitchen that did not have the proper paperwork. What we are told, I don't know if it's true or not, but the reports were that they were essentially saying, if you're not here legally, you need to go home. And they did, a lot of them. Well, why in the hell are we hiring them? That is illegal. And I'm going to marry this story with the story of Leverne here in a minute and ask you, why are our officials forgiving illegal behavior in the way that we are? I have a couple of theories about this, plus your calls on it. 615-737-9986. It's The Murphy Show on Super Talk.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. And the search is over for a missing 12-year-old boy whose body was recovered today at Billy Dunlop Park in Clarksville. Crews have been searching for him since Sunday. Investigators believe he drowned in the Red River. The boy's father says he went under while swimming and never came back up. His body was found less than a mile downstream from the original site. The park there, also Robert Clark Park, are closed until further notice. Right now in Marshall County, many in the community of Lewisburg are mourning the loss of Paresh Patel, a store clerk murdered during an armed robbery this week. Surveillance video shows a man identified by police as David Hamilton ordering the clerk to hand over money and then shooting him several times, even after he got the money.
We're going to miss him, and we need prayers for his wife and his daughter. And I just pray that God gives us the strength to make it through this. Even though when we go back in this store, we're not going to see him.
Hamilton was arrested yesterday, charged with criminal homicide. More charges possible. A vigil scheduled for tonight there at the store where Patel was killed. Tennessee's carried out the first execution of a condemned killer in more than 5 years. Channel 4's Holly Thompson says 73-year-old Oscar Smith died by lethal injection this morning for the 1989 murders of his estranged wife and her 2 teenage sons.
73-year-old has long maintained his innocence. Now, there have been legal challenges to the state's revised lethal injection protocol, but Governor Bill Lee denied a request to pause those executions.
Now,
but again,
the Tennessean says 35-year-old Judith Robert Smith and her sons, 13-year-old Jason Burnett and 16-year-old Chad Burnett, were murdered inside their Nashville home in 1989, with one prosecutor saying those boys died as heroes trying to save their mom. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Got crashes in the way right now. Stalled vehicles, too. The left shoulder blocked at I-65 northbound before Vietnam Veterans Boulevard. And then in South Nashville, TDOT reporting a crash 24 westbound before Murfreesboro Pike. Police reporting a crash in Antioch 24 eastbound at Hickory Hollow Parkway. Police say there's a crash 40 eastbound at Spence Lane. Then at Talbot's Corner 24 eastbound at 65 north. And in Dixon County, Highway Patrol reporting a crash 40 eastbound at I-840. Also at Kingston Springs, 40 westbound approaching exit 188. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm going to choose to believe that all these weather people are lying to us. They're just lying to us because they want us to feel better about it on the other end of it. Does that make sense to everybody? I just, you know what? But if they're not lying to us, and if there is a weather issue, and you do get a lot of rain, and all that rain comes into your basement or your crawl space, who are you going to call? Well, I'll tell you who you call. No lie. USS, United Structural Systems. If you have to have foundation issues addressed, you need to call the best. Call USS. And foundation issues, that basic foundation of your home, your property, that's going to make sure that everything else that is in that home is protected. It will be at risk if water gets in, and water is tenacious. It is unstoppable. It will try every angle and every possible way to get into your home if you let it. Let's not let it. USS is based right here in Middle Tennessee. I love that. They're members of our community. They go to church with us. They go to the ball games with us. And they answer to you, their customers. And they are the best, with almost 30,000 satisfied customers offering their testimonial at USS. USSTN.com for more information. That's USSTN.com. Keeping homes stable and dry since 1994. 615-488-7855. 488-7855. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Remember that you heard this 2 weeks ago. Not even 2 weeks ago. It was like 10 or 11 days ago. Remember when Freddie tells you that we don't need LPRs in this community, and I tell you that LPRs would help this mother get justice for her son, who currently is in Vanderbilt University Medical Center, after getting hit by an automobile. And that person, they found the automobile. They haven't found the person yet. And then there was another person that was hit on an electric bicycle last night in Antioch. That automobile has not been found yet. Would these cars be found had we LPRs? Maybe. But remember what Freddie tells you.
Everything in my power consistent with applicable law to protect anyone who calls Nashville home. What's clear today is that people who do not share our values of safety and community have the authority to cause deep community harm. We're still working to determine more about what happened over the weekend, but what we know right now, based on public statements, is that state and federal officials coordinated without us to engage in traffic enforcement actions clearly intended to target immigration concerns.
And he's worried about that. Says that it makes our community less safe. I'm not going to be lectured by someone like Freddie O'Connell about what makes our communities more or less safe when he does not get the job done when it comes to license plate readers in the city council. And all he has to do is bring the contracts. Bring the contracts, Freddie, and make the city council vote against them. If you say they're going to vote against them, make them vote against them. Lisa, we'll get to you in a moment. Jerry, it's your turn out of Murfreesboro. Hey, Jerry.
Hey, man. My thing, you talk about saving money and everything. Why are we paying for the UN? I mean, they've done absolutely nothing. In a lot of cases, like with Israel, they were working with terrorists. They used to call it tributes, where you pay the money to keep the outsiders, at bay, or have them leave you alone. They don't even leave us alone. I mean, you're talking about saving money? Stop paying money to the UN. It's worthless.
I would need to look up. I don't know offhand how much money we spend allowing the UN to be housed in New York. But you're right. Of all of the things that George W. Bush did, and I didn't cater to many of them, and I didn't appreciate many of them, and I think George W. Bush, outside of some of the immediate aftermath of 9/11, not the Patriot Act, that was awful, but outside of that, he wasn't that good of a president. But he did say this. He said that the United Nations has turned into a feckless debating society, and it's true. That's all it is. It's an anti-American feckless debating society. And I don't know necessarily why the president of the United States hasn't decided just to pull us from, not even pull us from the UN. I don't think that would be necessary, but tell the UN to go somewhere else. We'll remain a member of the United Nations, but we're not footing the bill anymore because we pay for the vast majority of the UN's presence here in the United States of America. We pay for the facility. We pay for travel. We pay to set them up. You're right. It's a waste of money.
All right.
Well, all right, Jerry. Thank you, brother. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. That's all there is to it. It's an absolute waste of cash for them to be here. I suppose that you could make an argument that there is value for us to remain members of the United Nations, if nothing else, just to make sure that we keep our enemies close, friends close, enemies closer. I think there's some value being on the United Nations Security Council to make sure that that anti-American propaganda doesn't spread into actual policy as a part of the United Nations. And we can prevent that right now. But there's zero reason for them to be in the United States. Danny is in Selmer. Hello, Danny.
Oh, well, evening, sir. Hey, I've called in before. I know I don't make much sense, but if you hear out my working hypothesis, you might understand why. Now, here's the thing I think we got going on with people. My working hypothesis is, let me back up a little bit. When I was really young, I was pretty wound up and stuff. I got my bell rung pretty bad in a car wreck when I was pretty young. About took me out, bad concussion. I was still pretty wound, made a little wilder and crazier. So as I aged, I got my bell rung again pretty hard. There's some minor ones in there, but so after about the third major heavy concussion, with a few minor ones in there, I started mellowing out, learning, things ain't all bad. I started thinking differently. So I'm just wondering, it's a working hypothesis, I'm not sure. But what do you think as far as, like, politicians? When we vote them in, should we all just hit them in the head with a baseball bat, a couple times, and see if they can mellow out and start being mellow and not be so wound up? And maybe we should just wander around with baseball bats and hit each other in the heads and everybody mellow out after a while or something. I don't know where I'm going with this, but it's a working hypothesis. But
well, it sounds to me, Danny, like you want everybody to smack everybody else around with baseball bats.
Well, it's a little better than shooting everybody and taking everybody's money and stuff. So it might as well just be up front about it, smack each other with a baseball bat, and thanks for a concussion, I guess. It might knock some sense into each of us if we do that. But I know it's nonsense, but actually there is some sense to it. Believe it or not, there is. There are brain studies on this.
I don't.
And
Danny, I would love for you to send me the brain studies that suggest that it's a good idea to hit people in the head. I hit my brother in the head with a baseball bat when we were kids. He denies that it hurt as much as I know that it did, but I know that it hurt, and I was begging him not to say anything because we were supposed to go to Disney World the next week, and if he had said something, the Disney World trip would have been off. But he had a big old knot on his head, Danny, big old knot on his head. And my brother's, he was like 10 years old. He's not been the same since. My brother is an absolute moron, Danny, because I hit him in the head with a baseball bat when I was 8 years old.
And I believe you that it hurt because he laid you out afterwards and you had a bigger welt on your head.
Hey, well, maybe. I mean, maybe.
I don't know. See,
I wasn't going to tell that side of the story, Danny, but now that you mention it, there might have been a whooping later on.
It's a working concussion theory. I don't know. Let me work on it. I'll haul you back someday.
All right, do that, Danny. Keep working on it. I know you're working out there in Selmer hard, and I appreciate the effort. Bud is next. Hello, Bud.
Hello, Murphy. I just real quick want to say Weber Weaver, you guys got the best show on the radio, man. Y'all
man, you're kind.
Checks in the mail.
Thank you there, Bud.
Y'all are welcome.
Hey, Louis, by the way, before you start your call, Lewisburg's going through it, and I just want to tell all of y'all, we talked about it yesterday afternoon because apparently everybody in Lewisburg knew this fella, Prince, that was killed. And God bless y'all down there. I know it's a tight-knit community, and we appreciate all the listeners from Lewisburg, and thank y'all for being down there.
It's just sensible. I appreciate that, Murphy. I really do.
Yeah.
About 20 years ago, I worked for this big farmer. I ran a dozer for him up in Indiana, and he had probably 150, 200 employees. He didn't have enough guys to cover the ground, so he'd bring these fellas in from South Africa because they already knew how to farm. And they show up in March, and we'd work with them side by side 6 days a week until November. And the horror stories these fellas would tell, I mean, it sends chills up your spine. There's one guy, he told me, he says he had to run to town in the morning, get a few things. On the way back, he could see the smoke for miles at his farm. And he got there, and 3 generations of family wiped out. Buildings burned to the ground. This is no joke. I mean, and I heard about this I've been following the store for 20 years. And, big old burly guy, and just anytime he'd talk about it, he'd just break down. There's another kid I work with. He's about the same age as me. Had a scar from ear to ear, had another scar, went from kidney to kidney across his belly. And he told us once we got to know him, he said, I ain't never going back. And me and a buddy of mine I worked with, we took him out to a bar one night, got dinner, had a few drinks. He hooked up with this big old girl, and come Monday morning, he was gone. He off and married that girl and off into the wind he went. And I don't blame him a bit because, these guys, it's no joke. I don't give a dag. I don't care what the liberal media is trying to tell you. I have met these guys. I've looked them in the eye. I've had them cry on my shoulder. And it's real. It's real.
I bet. Look, some of the things, I will broaden this out, Bud, because I can't speak specifically to the types of things that you're talking about. But we need to remind ourselves of how blessed we are on the regular being born in the United States of America. And there is no question that, to use the old baseball analogy, I think I heard Chad Benson say this the other day, and I think he's right, that if you're born in America, you're kind of born on first base. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's okay. You know who guaranteed that? Your fathers and your mothers and your grandfathers and your grandmothers and your great-grandfathers and your great-grandmothers, all the way back to our founding fathers. The reason that people like Bud and Matt Murphy and Ken even and Chris Weber, the reason that we are so passionate about what we do, the reason we're so passionate about the way that we do it, is to try to protect those things that brought us to where we are. The reason I can speak for myself on this, when I get so passionate about these ridiculous leftist, bad-mouthing the United States of America, look, no one is trying to Pollyanna over or sugarcoat some of the bad portions of our past. No one. No reasonable person wants to sugarcoat the sins of slavery, for example. But at the same time, that is not the only thing that America has done or accomplished. As a matter of fact, it pales in comparison to the good that we've presented around the world. America is a force of good. We are not a perfect force. So if you hear me get passionate against these liberals or passionate against these people who want to badmouth the United States of America, it's for that reason, that every other country wants to be us. For the most part, with a very few exceptions. I mean, I imagine you could point to one of them, one of these Scandinavian countries, maybe those guys, maybe New Zealand. They're so isolated they don't have to worry about it. But the vast majority of places in the world want to be us, and they can't figure it out. They can't get it done. It was a miracle that we did, and it takes work every single day to protect it. This coming Monday, we're going to celebrate those that sacrificed everything to protect it, that sacrificed everything to make sure that we have the ability to disagree on the radio, that we have the ability to be the smartest people on planet Earth or absolute blithering idiots. And you can go about your business and nobody will speak twice to you about it. Not in America. You have that freedom in America. Thank you to those that gave it to us. I'm going to speak more on Memorial Day tomorrow, quite extensively on Memorial Day tomorrow, because we're off, obviously, this coming Monday. 52 after the hour, more of your calls on the way. Plus, I promised you a conversation about Kid Rocks and other places, these locations that seem to be looking the other way intentionally when it comes to hiring illegal aliens. Is it time to put a stop to that, or do we need them in our economy? That conversation's coming up in the 6 o'clock hour on Super Talk. Grace Point Healthcare is affordable, convenient, and comprehensive medicine delivered the old-fashioned way. That is in a direct pay format. That's kind of the old-fashioned way, too. It means that treatment decisions are not going to be made between you and your insurance company. They will be made between you and your doctor, the medical staff of Grace Point Healthcare. When I sat down with these guys and talked to Dr. Rob and the rest of his team, and I was just so impressed. I was impressed that they get it. They understand that medical decisions ought to be formulated and executed with one purpose in mind, and that is to treat you and to treat your whole body to get to the root of the problem and to eliminate that problem from your life, not to treat the symptoms. Too often it is the case that doctors, sadly, treat symptoms as opposed to root causes. At Grace Point Healthcare, patients are treated naturally whenever possible. They avoid having to prescribe pharmaceutical medicines when they can, because that's not the answer either. Now, sometimes medicines are necessary and medicines are important, and they understand that at Grace Point as well. Call them today at 599-6868. No long wait times. You can get an appointment as soon as tomorrow at Grace Point Healthcare. Located in the heart of Franklin, exceptional medicine at your convenience. Grace Point Healthcare, modern medicine delivered the old-fashioned way. Hey, it's Matt Murphy, and I'm so excited about what's coming up at the end of the month. Man, oh man, it's almost a week away, right? It is the Glock Store's 5th annual open house, Saturday, May 31st. You've been hearing Lenny McGill talk about it all week long, and rightly so. We're all excited about it. They throw open their doors to the entire city of Nashville and the surrounding communities, and they welcome you in. I mean, let's just talk about a couple of aspects of this. One, they're giving away multiple Glocks. I say multiple Glocks. I don't know how many, because it keeps growing. It was one, then it was two, and then last I heard it was three. Folks, you need to be there to find out for yourself. It all culminates in that custom-made Trump Glock that you could be eligible for. I am told, much to my chagrin and sadness, that I'm not eligible for any of these Glocks because I work with the Glock Store. You know, I endorse the Glock Store. I'm sad to note that, but you know what? Less chances for me, more chances for you to win at the Glock Store. Plus, they get a brand new line of full auto rental rifles available, and they'll have a room set up so you can test some of these things like full auto machine guns. That's pretty cool, huh? 10 to 2. Don't forget to say hello when you stop by. I'll be there all day long. Saturday, May 31st. It's the party at the Glock Store.
Sad ending to the search for a 12-year-old Clarksville boy, and Tennessee executes a convicted killer for the first time in over 5 years. These stories and more at 6 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken. Just before 6 o'clock, we're going to talk with Congressman David Kustoff in the 6 o'clock hour. He was delayed. His flight was delayed, so he'll be with us. Talk about the passage of the big, beautiful bill. We continue to talk about immigration in the state of Tennessee and beyond as Donald Trump attempts to put a clamp down on that and the liberals attempt to stymie him at every step of the way. We will discuss that. Plus, I mentioned this story about kitchens closing. Look, Kid Rock is saying that he doesn't support, he 100% supports getting illegal criminals out of our country no matter where they are, and he wants President Trump to speed up the process. But then he went on to say, clearly, I don't have anything to do with day-to-day operations at my honky-tonk. Well, but it's your honky-tonk. I mean, it's got your name on it. Are you in compliance with the law or aren't you? I mean, is it not time that we started getting some of these folks in compliance with the law and we don't just give lip service to some of this stuff? I mean, I'm not trying to make enemies out of friends, but I'm just trying to be consistent here. One more hour to go. It's The Murphy Show.
Six o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. And right now in Middle Tennessee, the body of a missing 12-year-old Clarksville boy has been recovered. Crews found the body today less than a mile downstream from where investigators believe he drowned, where his father says he had been swimming but went under and never came back up. This in the Red River on Sunday. Billy Dunlop Park and Robert Clark Park closed until further notice. Also in Tennessee, Oscar Smith is the first convicted killer to die by lethal injection in over 5 years, pronounced dead at the Max Security Prison in West Nashville just before 11 this morning for the murders of his estranged wife and stepsons in 1989. Here's the family afterward.
The pain of losing Judy, Chad, and Jason is something that we will continue to carry. It's not a moment that goes by that we don't miss them. I miss the sound of Judy's voice. I know my brother does as well. On the other end of the phone, we miss the excitement of planning Chad's driving lessons, and we miss the pure joy of hearing Jason's laughter.
Now, the Tennessean says 35-year-old Judith Roberts Smith and her sons 13-year-old Jason Burnett and 16-year-old Chad Burnett were murdered inside their Nashville home October 1st, 1989. One prosecutor saying the boys died as heroes trying to save their mom. First responders and the NTSB assessing the damage today after a Cessna airplane crashed into a dense residential neighborhood in San Diego. Raina Crosto lives in that neighborhood.
I was up with my toddler. She wasn't able to sleep. I believe it was like 5 or 10 seconds later, I heard a big crash. I assumed it was a car crash. And then seconds after that, we saw what looked like lightning.
Yeah, the plane was not that far from the airport, and officials say the crash created a fire that damaged homes and cars. At least 3 people dead, 8 others hurt. A federal judge is blocking the revocation of international students' legal status, and that doesn't have anything to do with this. Came hours, actually, that judge in California's ruling came hours after the Trump administration had barred Harvard from allowing foreign students to enroll at the university, claiming Harvard has refused to keep Jewish students safe from what it says are pro-Hamas sympathizers and still practices DEI policies. What this means from the Homeland Security Secretary is that any current international students at Harvard, in order to keep their legal status, are going to have to transfer to another school. And a federal judge in Massachusetts blocking Trump administration efforts to dismantle the Department of Education, claiming it takes an act of Congress to end a federal agency. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Police reporting a crash partially blocking the on-ramp 40 westbound from Charlotte Avenue, and then off-ramp partially blocked 24 eastbound off-ramp to northbound 65 in Talbot's Corner. Over by the airport, police say there's a crash 40 eastbound at Donaldson Pike, exit 216B. And police reporting 40 westbound at the I-24 40 split east near Belmont. Police reporting a crash 440 eastbound after Hillsborough Pike, 21st Avenue, exit 3. In Berry Hill, off-ramp partially blocked by a crash, 440 eastbound to go southbound on 65. Traffic every 10 minutes, every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Apparently, there's a movement on the super text line as well as on the YouTube chat room forum to lobby me to run for president of the United States. Here's the thing. I would say that it's a disqualifier because I might have brain damage, but the guy before our current president did, and
yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
But I might have some sort of brain condition.
Well, you do work in talk radio, so.
You know why specifically I bring this up?
Oh,
have you seen the super text line?
No, I have not.
They're very upset at me.
Oh, yeah, I know what you did.
I don't what can I do? I need help. Man, I need help.
We're going to get you a big old sign.
It is one of the favorite segments that we do on a daily basis. I mean, people tolerate the other 3 hours and 40 minutes for the good 20 minutes of nincompoops, and I ruin it on a regular basis.
It's one of my favorite things to see if you remember that to do it. And I just sit back here and wait, and well, he hadn't remembered yet.
Whenever it got to 5:45, that's whenever I said, "No, it's not happening."
Yeah, exactly.
Y'all are
the
mean.
light never went on.
Y'all are mean because I know sometimes I forget, and it's like 42, and you see me remember, and you just smile real big when you see me remember.
Yep.
Y'all are mean.
Yeah, sometimes your head turns kind of fast.
You know why? Because sometimes if I have the super text line up,
they'll remind you.
You know what? They remind me.
Yep.
Will Ken remind me? No. Will Chris remind me? No. He says, no, Murphy, it's your show. Y'all remind me over on the super text line. Thank y'all. I appreciate that. It's like, hey, would y'all mind reminding me the next time that we have a meeting with the big boss too? Because Ken won't remind us.
Yeah, this time I'll make it 3 minutes before the meeting.
Perfect.
You boys gonna make it?
Yeah. Y'all gonna get here?
Hey, Paul, I'm here. They're not.
I'm good. They're bad. I'm awesome. They suck. Yeah. All right. Good meeting.
Adjourned.
Gavel it out. All right. There is some good news and there's some bad news to talk about. Some of the good news to talk about would be in the form of the passage of the big, beautiful bill. And there's just some awful news to discuss with you as well. Some activity going on in Washington, D.C. We want to talk to our man, Congressman David Kustoff, about all of these matters. He joins us on the Murphy Show hotline. I appreciate his willingness to come on the show. I appreciate his perspective from the 8th Congressional District of the great state of Tennessee. Congressman, it's always good to catch up with you. I hope you're doing okay.
Hey, Matt. Good evening. Yeah, we've had it was interesting that we passed major legislation. This is really major legislation in Washington, D.C. earlier this morning, but yet at the same time, hours before that, just a terrible tragedy in Washington, D.C. with the murder of those two Israeli embassies.
Well, and I'll tell you, David, I mean, I would have bet money that the first question that I would have asked you would have been about the big, beautiful bill, as our president would call it, but it would not be the case because I do need to ask you about this. Obviously, a man accused of shooting 2 Israeli embassy workers in Washington, D.C., a violent act of anti-Semitism on display in Washington. Sadly, we have seen a lot of examples of permissive anti-Semitic behavior in our United States of America, and I will not necessarily directly connect the two, but you can't help but indirectly connect the two as to see this happen in Washington, D.C. What are your overall thoughts on this?
So, Matt, there's no doubt that since October the 7th of 2023, we've seen the ugly side of anti-Semitism just rear its head in our country. And obviously, we've seen it in our streets. We've seen it on college campuses across the nation. And it's a little ironic. Yesterday morning in the Capitol, I was invited to speak at an anti-Semitism forum. A number of Jewish people from across the community had come there. There were Republican congressmen there. There were Democrat congressmen there. Bruce Pearl, the coach at Auburn, former UT coach, who is very passionate, goes around the country, Matt, talking about the evils of anti-Semitism, was there speaking. And I thought, this is really good. We're all saying the same things. We're saying what we should be saying. We talk about all the evils in the world and that we're standing up to it. And then several hours later, this terrible tragedy happens in Washington, D.C. with the brutal murder of these two Israeli embassy employees. So, the fact of the matter is, and I said this yesterday morning at the breakfast that I was just telling you about, that we've got to continue, leaders like me, to speak strongly against anti-Semitism and our support of Israel, who is our greatest ally in the Middle East. And the fact of the matter is that if some of these people get their way, free Palestine and from the river to the sea, meaning there's no more Israel. Now, Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East. They are our greatest ally in the Middle East. And when Benjamin Netanyahu came to the U.S. last year and gave a speech to a joint session of Congress, he said, and this is exactly right, the enemies of Israel are the enemies of the United States. I mean, the same ones that want to annihilate Israel want to annihilate us.
Congressman David Kustoff is with us. Obviously, we will be discussing the bill that was passed by the House of Representatives today, but want to address this tragedy that happened in D.C. Initially. What more can we do? And, sadly, a lot of people want to obfuscate the situation to the point that we forget that it was not Israel that brought this conflict to the point that it is today. I mean, you well remember, I well remember, but it is worth reminding that it was October 7th, 2023, and the brutal, vicious assault, the largest assault on the Jewish people really since the Holocaust happened in Israel on that day that brought us to where we are today. It's important to remind folks of that.
It is, Matt. And, I hear Bernie Sanders and Tlaib and other members of the far left who blame Israel for everything and want a ceasefire. And to your point, there was a ceasefire. There was a ceasefire until October the 7th of 2023 when Hamas terrorists brutally murdered and took hostage a lot of people. To your point, there were more Jewish people killed on October the 7th of 2023 than any day since the Holocaust, which is just amazing. And when I went to Israel last year and took a tour with the Speaker of the Knesset, Speaker Ohana, they took me to the Nova Music Festival site. So this is the place where there was a music festival the night of the attack, the day of the attack. And what they did, Matt, to memorialize people, they put stakes in the ground, and stapled to the stakes are photos of everybody there who was murdered. Mm. And Matt, they're all smiling back at you, and they're 19 and 20 and 21-year-old young men and women, obviously in the prime of their lives, and that's the end. Mm. So it is real. The stories are horrific. The murders and the torture are brutal. I've seen videos taken that day of October the 7th, and so we can never forget. And I am proud that you have not only Republicans almost uniformly, but most Democrats, not all, who stand out and speak loudly. But look, there are some Democrat members who will lead pro-Hamas demonstrations through the United States Capitol. So people like me have to stand up, and we've got to talk loudly.
Congressman, one more quick note on this point, and we'll move on to the legislation passed today. The Department of Homeland Security, it has been learned, has revoked the student visa program at Harvard. For whatever reason, Harvard decided to fight this fight regarding the anti-Semitic, really pro-terrorist behavior that was happening on their campus. I don't think that the government, which gives a lot of money to Harvard University, despite their $50-some-odd billion endowment, I don't think the government was asking too much. That they protect the Jewish students on campus, that they protect all students on campus equally. However, Harvard wouldn't do it. And now the consequence is that due to their pro-terrorist conduct, as it was stated by the DHS, DHS has eliminated their student visa program. Do you agree with that decision?
I do. Frankly, I appreciate the leadership of President Trump and Secretary Kristi Noem, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, issuing that order today, because we've seen in these hearings. I've had hearings like that in the Ways and Means Committee, obviously the Education Committee in the House of Representatives. You remember seeing these college presidents, Harvard and Columbia, come before the committee and look, just they were just dumb. I mean, they didn't get it, and they took up for the wrong side, for the wrong people, not for the innocent students, but they took up for the known troublemakers, and it goes way beyond that. So I agree, and I appreciate President Trump's leadership and Secretary Noem's leadership, and hopefully by President Trump issuing that order as it relates to Harvard, that's a wake-up call for everybody else. It's a wake-up call for Columbia. It's a wake-up call for Penn. It's a wake-up call for all these kind of woke universities, Ivy League universities that don't care about the safety of their students.
I want you to address this because I think it's important to address some of our naysayers, Congressman. And I just received we have a super text feature where people can filter in questions. And one of these folks, and I think you can tell by the tone that they might disagree with us on the issue of Israel and Hamas, but that's okay. 9860, as they identify themselves, writes, "Hey, Matt, will you ask your guest, the congressman, if Israel endlessly bombing civilians has helped or hurt their cause?" Obviously, that's an interesting way to phrase the question. Any response to that, David?
Yeah, I think Israel has the absolute right to defend herself. And if you look at Israel on a map and you look at how condensed it is, and their enemies literally all around Israel's border, they've got the right to do what they're doing. To your point, there were no hostilities before October the 7th, 2023, before Israel was brutally attacked by Hamas and really proxies of Iran, because these terrorist groups are funded by Iran. So, if the tables were turned and we had somebody attacking the United States, we would have the absolute right to defend ourselves and take out our enemy. So I agree with the strategy of Prime Minister Netanyahu to defend Israel, and hopefully there will be peace in that region one day, but unfortunately we're a long way away from that.
Congressman David Kustoff with us from the 8th Congressional District, discussing some of the just awful news out of Washington, D.C. regarding these two Israeli staffers from the Israeli embassy who were gunned down last night. Let's talk about a little better news, or is it better news? How comfortable are you with the bill that was passed? How excited are you that the House managed to get it through, and how anticipatory are you regarding what the Senate is going to do with this piece of legislation, David?
Well, I want to go back a few months, and I'm going to go back 48 hours, because I serve on the House Ways and Means Committee. There were a number of committees that were really involved in this bill. My committee, from the tax standpoint, making sure that people can enjoy lower taxes. The Energy and Commerce Committee, the Homeland Security Committee, which is chaired by Mark Green, a number of committees, the Agriculture Committee. And it was so important because every committee that filled in as part of the one big beautiful bill, these are all of President Trump's priorities that he talked about in 2024. And to kind of fast forward, 2 days ago, 48 hours ago, on Tuesday, President Trump came to the Capitol, met with Republican congressmen, and the magic in that is, you knew before this vote was taken there was not going to be one Democrat congressman that was going to vote for this bill. So this is all Republican on the House side and the Senate side. And President Trump talked about what I just said, that it was so important to him that we get this bill passed because it was the border stuff that he talked about in the campaign in 2024. It was all the economic stuff that he talked about in the campaign in 2024, the waste, fraud, and abuse, cleaning that up. It is all encompassed, all combined in this one bill. And, with my part on the Ways and Means Committee, we looked at permanently reducing people's taxes at all levels, at all income levels, giving a permanent deduction for small business, which is so important in my district and really across the state of Tennessee, because it's small business that employs most people across the state and then frankly across the country, making sure that our family farms are protected from the death tax, that the majority of those won't have to pay that. We did all that in this bill. And so I went to the House floor last night about 11 p.m. and I came off about 7 a.m. after we had successfully passed this bill. And I'm really proud of it. So, we've passed the bill in the House. Now this goes to the Senate. We did this through a process called reconciliation, which doesn't mean anything to anybody except for the one thing that everybody listening should know about reconciliation. That means that the Senate can pass it with 51 votes instead of having to get 60 votes. That's the secret sauce with reconciliation. It's all got to tie back to the budget. And so I think we passed a really good product. There's some things I would have done differently with it, but all in all, it's really good. It means a lot to the president. And if the Senate can get this done, then I think this is going to be a major part of Donald Trump's legacy.
Well, so much to unpack from the bill, obviously, as it is a huge, there's a reason they call it a big, beautiful bill, right? So we'll continue to unpack it, Congressman. I appreciate your time. I know you're fresh off a flight. Thank you for being on with us and informing the folks of Middle Tennessee exactly what's going on in Washington, D.C., and we'll do it again next time.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you very much. Have a great afternoon.
All right. Always a pleasure. There's Congressman David Kustoff of the 8th Congressional District joining us for a few good moments, spending most of our time discussing this tragedy that happened outside of the Jewish Museum with the Israeli embassy staffers 24 after the hour. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. All right, friends, Tennessee Men's Clinic, they have 2 locations to serve you, qualified urologist, a team of doctors and professionals that are there to assist in all of your men-centric needs. And that's what it's all about, gentlemen. When I stop by Tennessee Men's Clinic and say hello to Evan or the rest of the crew, I'll stop by the Midtown location. I don't get as often to the Cool Springs location, but I should stop by there more often just to say hello to everybody and make sure everything's going as it should. And it is. They are helping men like you get back to your normal life, get back to intimacy with your loved one or your spouse, get back to the types of engagements that you want to be engaged in. Guys, if you have found that it's more difficult than ever to engage in intimacy, and you don't really know why, it's time to learn why, and it's time to solve these issues with the Tennessee Men's Clinic, and they most certainly can do it. A simple T-test, and they'll do it right there in your initial consultation. They will give you a blood test, and they'll have some answers as to what path they want to take and what path you should take to get you back into life again. Right there in your first consultation at the Tennessee Men's Clinic. So give them a call and schedule that appointment today. You'll be happy you did. TennesseeMen'sClinic.com online, TennesseeMen'sClinic.com, or 615-208-9090. 208-9090 for the Tennessee Men's Clinic. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Looking forward to that, Ken Weaver. Looking forward to this conversation as well. A Wednesday night town hall meeting involving the Leverne Police Department addressed immigration policy and was, according to the police department, an effort to, quote, build trust in the community and between the community and members of law enforcement. Leverne Police Chief Christopher Muse, and I am going to assume that I'm saying that correctly, Moews. Muse. I either go Muse or I go Meows, and I don't think I'm going Meow, so I think I'm going Muse. Leverne Police Chief Christopher Muse began the meeting with a message to Leverne residents that he wants to provide transparency between the department and the community. He went on to talk about the sense of fear and concern in Leverne. I want to address this in just a moment. How about you, as the police chief, deal with the law and not with fear? Lawbreakers are always fearful that they are going to get caught, aren't they? Isn't that the way that things should be? I'm getting more hard-hearted on all of this based on the amount of grace that our police officers seem to be given this subject. It's 31 after the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Folks, Cover Nash has you covered quite literally and figuratively when it comes to your insurance needs. They will look at all of the various coverage, see what I did there, in every single insurance plan on the market today. And Shane will sit down with you after shopping the entire market for you and explain what he believes the best options are for you. He can pare them down to a few, or we can look at a lot. Shane wants you to be informed about your health insurance coverage. Don't wait until open enrollment. That's mistake number one. Number two, understand that you need to be able to shop all of the insurance plans in order to get the best one for you and your family. That's number two. Number three, Shane Ring is simply the best when it comes to explaining all of this to you. Don't get taken advantage of. Allow Shane to be your concierge, if you will, your agent when it comes to health insurance. Take control of your money and your health coverage managed by you, not by the government. It's Shane Ring and Cover Nash. Go to covernash.com for more info. That's covernash.com, or call 615-465-0023, 465-0023. Super Talk 99.7 WTN, 38 minutes after, almost 39 after 6 o'clock. We're winding ourselves down to a Friday edition that will be broadcasting, at least from my part, at Timms Ford Lake. I would love, love, love to see you down in Winchester, Tennessee, at Timms Ford Lake. A big Memorial Day weekend going on down there. A lot of fun, a lot of frivolity, a lot of food, a lot of beverage. And we'll do a little radio show from 3 until 7 o'clock down there tomorrow. And we'd love to hear from you and see you. Just stop by. Everybody but Bob is welcome. Everybody but Bob. 61. And if you know, you know. If you don't know what I'm talking about. But if you know, you know. You know what, Bob, you can stop by too. Tell us some of those FBI secrets. Just stop on by and say hello at Timms Ford Lake at Twin Creeks Marina. Tomorrow from 3 until 7. Now, that's just one of the things we got going on. We got that. We got the May 31st Glock store deal. And then the June 17th mid-year get-together, gathering.
Review.
Mid-year review, I guess it is, at Kings Bowl. Which, have you been to Kings Bowl?
I have not.
You need to go. Of course, they make you stay here for these things.
Yeah. Well,
I could talk him into it.
no, that's fine. I'll stay here.
You sure?
I am positive.
You willing to sacrifice for the team?
I am willing to take one for the team.
I mean, I'm happy to put in a good word.
I appreciate the effort, but that's not necessary.
That's Weber saying he had a belly full of you people out at Nashville Palace. That's what that is. It is my understanding that tickets are free to you, free to me. I think that's correct. So y'all just go over to 997WTN.com to find out more information about that. And that will be precisely 1 week before my big surgery. Very excited. I actually said to my doc, my orthopedic, is that right? Yeah, I'm saying that right. My orthopedic.
Yeah.
I said we were discussing, the efficacy or the lack thereof of the cortisone shot, talking about some of the physical therapy, talking about some of the limitations. And I said, look, I am limited in my left shoulder. I think it's causing my upper body to be weaker, and I don't like that. I'm 51 years old. I need to get back to strength levels. And he was like, well, your shoulder's not going to be like it was when you were 25. I said, I just want my shoulder to be like the other one is, right? That's all I'm asking. I get it. I understand that, you're not going to turn me into a 25-year-old. And as we're having this conversation, we start talking about, all right, so this is what you're settling on. And I asked him, do you recommend this? Do you think it's the right thing to do? He said, yeah, based on everything that you've told me. And I said, well, it's not like it's, I don't know why my mind was here, but I said, well, it's not like it's like total shoulder replacement or anything. He was like, he looked at me funny, and I looked at him funny. And he goes, yeah, that's what we're doing.
That's exactly what it is.
That is exactly what it is. We're not reversing the shoulder.
Yeah.
We're replacing the shoulder. So it's a total shoulder replacement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we're going to make him better. We're going to make him better. Hopefully they'll do some brain replacement too while they're in there. That's what we're talking about. They say they do, and I don't like this. I told him I don't like this. So he said with younger patients, and believe it or not, I'm classified as a younger patient in this regard, that they leave the socket and the ball like God intended them. But for older patients where the socket has worn away, they flip it. So where your arm, what is that, your femur? Or no, your femur's your leg.
Yeah, that's your thigh bone. Yeah,
that's your humerus,
tibia, or
tibia,
like that.
Tibia or fibia,
something like that.
One of those. One way or the other. The arm bone, your upper arm bone,
humerus.
There's a humerus in there. There's a funny bone. But they put the socket on that, and they put the ball on your shoulder.
Weird.
And it is weird. But they say that it works pretty good. But you know what? You know why I was predisposed not to want to do that? And then old Doc told me something. He said, yeah, the French came up with it. I said, I don't want anything a part of that. If it's not cheese or wine related when it comes to the French, I don't want any part of it. Thank you very much. I don't want any part of this either. The Leverne Police Department, in the form of Police Chief Christopher Muse, began their meeting last night in Leverne, Tennessee, telling residents that he wants to provide transparency between the department and the community. Muse added that at the moment, he senses the fear and concern among Leverne residents about immigration and customs enforcement activity across mid-state. Muse, whose name I might be mispronouncing, affirmed that the Leverne Police Department's primary focus is public safety, adding that the department has not colluded, his word now, colluded with any ICE agents on any operations within the city. However, Muse added that both he and other Leverne police officers are bound to follow the law, so they are required to report anyone without documentation. Ultimately, he said police want residents to be able to report crime without fear of detention or deportation. He said, quote, there was an incident in Leverne involving a small child, and we believe, we're not positive, but it's possible that the caretaker didn't call police for the medical emergency for the child. Nobody wants to have a 6-month-old pass away just because somebody might have, I'm not saying they did, but might have feared calling the police because of their immigration status. I understand that law breaking has its levels and degrees. I understand that speeding is not the same thing as assault and battery. I understand that some sort of traffic violation would not be the same thing as an attack on another citizen. I get it that, you know, there are crimes that would not rise to the level of burglary or robbery or, God forbid, murder. So we get it that there are degrees of crime, but lawbreaking is lawbreaking. What I find fascinating are the number of police chiefs around the state of Tennessee and around the United States of America that are willing to be dismissive of lawbreaking because they're worried about fear. Well, if you're not in the United States of America legally, and I understand that many of you that might be listening to me, maybe some of you listening to me right now are not here legally. I get it that perhaps you've broken no other laws. I wouldn't suggest that you're bad people necessarily. But living in those conditions under those circumstances, I can't prevent you from being fearful that you might get found out at some point because you did break the law. What I don't understand are our law men and women in this state essentially apologizing for following the law that we, the people, want them to follow. We, the people, voted for Donald Trump. We, the people, voted for the policies initiated by the General Assembly that would give the Tennessee Highway Patrol a better ability to work with ICE in order to crack down on illegal alien behavior. I am fascinated with the amount of law enforcement who swear to uphold the law. I understand you have to prioritize, and I understand that perhaps somebody without documentation is not necessarily a priority, but why do you insist on apologizing for following the law? What you ought to say, I would think, is that, hey, if some criminal activity is committed against you, you need to report that criminal activity. Period. End of the discussion. Yet that's not what the Leverne police chief said. The Leverne mayor, Jason Cole, did not have any details about the case that the police chief was referring to. Once again, you can trust this, that if you're breaking no other laws, you're not going to be a priority for the police officers around you. But if it comes to a point where you have an interaction where you have to provide your documentation and you're not here legally, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I just don't. And then there's this. Amidst the criticism of the Kid Rock, a big-ass honky-tonk rock and roll steakhouse, Kid Rock has responded, condemning the report, claiming that his big honky-tonk rock and roll steakhouse closed early on a Saturday night earlier this month so that illegal alien workers could avoid rumored activity by ICE on the Strip on the lower Broadway. The Nashville Scene reported the steakhouse, which is operated by Nashville businessman Steve Smith, was among the restaurants that reportedly closed early on May 10th. The outlet claimed the managers at all the establishments operated by Smith were instructed to tell employees without citizenship status to leave the premises during a primetime rush on Saturday night to avoid detention by ICE. Kid Rock, in a post on the social media platform X, claimed that he's not involved in day-to-day operations at the establishment, but confirmed his support for ICE enforcement operations. Quote, "Clearly, I do not have anything to do with day-to-day operations at my honky-tonk." What do you mean clearly? No offense. Once again, love Kid Rock, love everything you stand for, love everything you do, but your name's on the business. It's not going to be clear to people that go to your business that you're not involved in the day-to-day operations because your name's on it. And then he went on to say, but it's good clickbait. I get that. That being said, 100% support illegal criminals out of our country, no matter where they are. I also, like President Trump, want to speed up the process in doing so. You know, it's a violation of Tennessee code. It's a violation of your I-9 status the Simpson-Mazzoli Act made it impermissible to knowingly hire illegal aliens. It is against the law to knowingly employ an illegal alien, yet companies do it every single day. While the artist wrote that he would like to speed up the legal immigration process, he did not note one way or the other whether or not he was aware that Kid Rock's big-ass honky-tonk and steakhouse was hiring illegal aliens. He did not make reference to the accusation being made against the establishment. Now, once again, I think Steve Smith is a great, I know people have a lot of opinions on him. I don't know him personally. I hear that he's a good guy. I hear that I don't know him. I don't know this guy. But I value people that value the law, and I think we try to have it both ways. When we allow these things to go on under our nose, we know exactly what's happening. And if you're Kid Rock, you know exactly what's happening, yet you go out and you dramatically show your support for Donald Trump. Well, Donald Trump's the guy that's cracking down on all of this. We are in the messy stage of this process, and there will come a time where we need to insist that we follow the law. That's all. Follow the law. Not the money. The law. Sadly, part of what got us into this from the start are conservative people and their willingness to look the other way when it benefits their bottom line, when it comes to their money, when they know that they can hire a cheaper form of labor if it is illegal labor, and if they do it in a way where they don't really know what they don't know, but they really know what they do know. Y'all know what I'm talking about? And they get away with it, and the bottom line is fattened as a result of it. That is a part. The Chamber of Commerce Republicans are a part of the reason why we're in this situation right now. And it's high time that we talked about it. And there are no sacred cows with me when it comes to this sort of thing. 52 after the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We'll wrap it up after this and hand off to Mark Leverne. It is a great time to shop Genesis Diamonds. I believe any time is a great time to shop Genesis Diamonds. They are your exclusive retailer for all of the top bridal jewelry in town. They also have a better selection than anybody in town, whether it's a ring or a pendant, a necklace, a bracelet, whatever it might be. They have a fabulous selection at both locations, Green Hills and Cool Springs. Their inventory is huge. I mean, dare I say huge? And with that huge inventory, it means that they don't have to worry about tariffs affecting the prices like it might affect some jewelry stores or jewelry companies. Genesis is always going to be the value leader here, regardless of what happens around the world. They were built on that foundation. It's way beyond price, though, folks. It's their selection, their quality, their outrageously good customer service, all of industry-leading qualities, and their warranties are pretty incredible as well. Ask them about all of these things when you stop by Green Hills and Cool Springs. If you've got an anniversary or birthday or a just because coming up, it's time to get with Genesis Diamonds. Once again, Green Hills and Cool Springs. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you. I forgot nincompoops in the news today, but I did not forget to pay off the nickel talk. I'm 1 for 2. 1 out of 2 ain't bad.
You're betting 500.
That, according to me. So the much discussed elimination of the penny. It looks like it's going to happen at some point over the course of the next year. The U.S. Department of Treasury has now announced that they are going to eliminate production of the penny by phasing it out and will soon stop putting out new 1-cent coins into circulation. The Department of Treasury said that the government made its final order of penny blanks this month. These are the blank coins that they stamp into pennies. And the United States Mint will continue to manufacture pennies only as long as the inventory of penny blanks exists. Would you care to guess how many pennies are in circulation?
Oh, there's probably billions of them.
280 billion.
Wow.
280 billion. Most of those are not like in active circulation. They're in your house or in your...
Lost somewhere.
Yeah, lost somewhere. A penny costs 3.7 cents to make. But that's not the worst of it. While a dime only cost 5.8 cents to make, that's good news, and a quarter only cost 14.7 cents to make, a nickel is the worst offender. A nickel costs 13.8 cents to make. Every nickel.
Wow.
And what people are saying is if you eliminate the penny, you're going to put more strain on nickels.
That's true.
Because you're going to need more nickels.
Yeah.
So I say just cut to the chase and get rid of the nickel too, and let's do a dime system and be done with it. How about that? Cash me outside. How about that? Let's do it. All right, we're going to do it from Timms Ford Lake tomorrow. That does it for us. A Friday edition coming up tomorrow. Have a great evening, folks. Hug your loved ones. So long, everybody. Mark Levin up next.